All right, everyone. Good morning, everyone, and welcome, councillors, ELT, and all our team and the community of the Central Highlands to the new year. This is the first opportunity we have to, I guess, share with you through a meeting our business back into full gear, and obviously in a little bit different format. So you will notice by sheer fact that we meet here virtually, and certainly to maintain, I guess, the access that our community requires of our business. We're making sure that you can stream and see our council at work as you normally would do, as if we were sitting in the chamber and the gallery and that live stream were available to you there. These are different times, and this is showing that your council is very flexible and adaptable to the conditions that prevail, and doing our bit to make sure we're supporting not only our community, but certainly our team and the way we actually go about our business, to make sure that there is that continuity of our business, to make sure we keep servicing the Central Highlands as people expect us to do. Now, just with these changes, there'll be some slight differences, I guess, to the way some of our activities might happen today, but fundamentally they will be the same. Obviously, people will have seen the agendas that are available. They'll be able to follow along the discussion today, and in some cases probably at a very closer observation than you probably had before. You will see all of our councils very much up and close and personal, and there'll be different officers coming in today to present their reports, whom you will also see. Now, I guess today, to make it easier for all of us to follow, that's councillors, officers, and certainly the public that wishes to join us today. I think if we keep our conversations obviously referenced, we obviously have to share our agendas on screen, but for those that are working with a number of devices to make sure that we can actually have all the detail that we need, references to those will make it easier for people to follow along. And I think just as a process, so that everyone understands and we get a better flow into what we do, what we might do is, as participants, with certainly officers presenting reports today, if there is additional information that officers might add to that, well, they might do that at the end of the report. So the discussion that might come after that will be as informed as it possibly can, and obviously we'll have that good interaction between our team, certainly, and our officers, to make sure the information is well and truly understood and then presented to you. Now, councillors, the different roll call that we will use today is that you must be able to see and hear us. So I'll do that roll call, and I'll start with Deputy Mayor Christine Rolfe. Can you hear and see us?
Yes, Mayor, can hear and see you.
Thank you, Christine. Councillor Ann Carpenter, can you see and hear us?
I can see and hear you, thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Councillor Charlie Brimblecombe, can you see and hear us?
Yes, I can see and hear you. Thank you, Mayor.
Now, Councillor Gai Cypher, can you see and hear us?
I can see and hear you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Gai. Councillor Natalie Curtis, can you see and hear us?
I can see and hear you, Mayor Hayes.
Thank you very much, Natalie. Councillor Joseph Burns, can you see and hear us?
Yeah, all good on my end.
Thanks, Joe. Thank you, and good to know that it's good on your end. Councillor Megan Daniels, can you see and hear us?
Yes, I can, Mayor Hayes.
Thank you, Megan. And Councillor Janice Moriarty, can you see and hear us?
Yes, certainly can. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Janice. All right, well, that's our roll call. I understand that there may be a slight lag, certainly with our streamers today, but I'm sure you will follow along, and obviously you'll get to see our work, at least with that slight lag. There will be breaks during the day, obviously, to step away from this at the appropriate times. We'll advise people of that, so our streamers can leave us for that short periods of time and then come back. But other than that, you will expect us to conduct a meeting very, very similar to the way we've always done that. So without further ado, I'll move along to, I guess, some leaves of absence. Oh, sorry, there's no apologies. Everyone is present. We've just done that roll call. Leave of absence is required, councillors. that's probably a bit of a dry topic, given that we're not moving very far at all at the moment. So I can understand that councillors may not just need that leave of absence right now. And as we do, and because of certainly the format that we're using today, we acknowledge the traditional owners of the land in all parts of the Central Highlands where all of you come from today, and we pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. A little bit different, obviously, as I said at the start of the meeting, to what would normally have in a face-to-face boardroom, is obviously the need to actually suspend our standing orders to allow the council to conduct a virtual meeting. And I'll ask our CEO, Sharon Houlihan, to actually just run through that so people understand the need for us to do that. So thank you, Sharon.
Thank you, Mayor, and good morning, Mayor and councillors. So this item relates to us enacting the Local Government Regulation 2012, Chapter 8, Part 2, Division 4, which allows for virtual council meetings. It's a procedural matter that involves the setting aside of 4 subsections of our standing orders, which relate to virtual attendance at council meetings. So our standing orders did not envisage a circumstance where council meetings would be conducted with all attendees participating virtually, although they do envisage a circumstance with some attendees attending virtually. Unlike our standing orders, though, the Public Health and Other Legislation Further Extension of Expiring Provisions Amendment Act 2021, which was put in place in response to the COVID risk by the state government, it does allow for the conducting of the entire council meeting via audio link or via audio visual link. So as long as we can all hear and participate at a minimum in an audio fashion, we are meeting the state legislation. That extension to enable virtual meetings is in place until the end of April 2022. So therefore, to conduct our meeting virtually, we just need to suspend those 4 subsections of our standing orders to make us in alignment with the Local Government Regulation 2012. So the resolution, therefore, is a little bit of a long one, but I'll run through most of it. So it's 1, resolve to suspend the following sections of Section 48 and 49 of the Standing Orders Policy 0055. Section 48, attendance by councillors or committee members by audio or audio-visual link, subsections 5, 8 and 9. And Section 49, attendance of public and media at local government meetings, subsection 1. The second part of the resolution is resolved that the following meeting processes are to be observed, recognising that a councillor taking part in a meeting held by audio link or audio visual link is taken to be present at the meeting in accordance with Section 277B2 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, with the recommendations subsections to be taken as read, and they are up on the screen. And then the third part of the resolution is to note that in September 2021, the Public Health and Other Legislation Further Extension of Expiring Provisions Amendment Act 2021 was passed, which had the effect of extending the operation of Chapter 8, Part 2, Division 4 of the Local Government Regulation 2012 until 30 April 2022, which allows A, the option to conduct the entire council meeting via audio link or audio visual link. B, where possible, to provide streaming or other facilities so that the public can observe or hear the meeting as it is happening at one of council's public offices or on the council's website. And C, the chairperson the option to close the meeting on health and safety grounds to protect participants or observers from risk of exposure to COVID-19. So on the basis of the special COVID public health legislation, which specifically allows for virtual council meetings, the recommendation is made, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Sharon. And I guess that legislation was provided, I guess, recently, I guess, in terms of in 2020 there, obviously, when it became necessary for certainly local government to act under the same circumstances as most others, and that provision there obviously assists. Councillor, is there any questions about that resolution? I know we've obviously discussed this to obviously be allowed, or to allow us to do our business today, but is there any questions about that? Councillor's good. All right. Well, as Sharon has read that out in full, the recommendations are in those 1, 2, 3 parts. Would someone like to move those, please? Moved by Councillor Bimbracombe, seconded Councillor Daniels. Now, this resolution has been moved and seconded. Councillors, obviously, this is where it might differ a little bit today. The observation and recording of your votes will be very careful. Not that it's not careful before, but certainly we will obviously endeavour to make sure the screens reflect your votes by a show of hands, which we've agreed that we will do manually. So when I'm called for the vote, those for? Against? So that's 8 to 1. Now, Councillor Cypher, would you like your vote recorded?
Yeah, can if you want to. It's not normal, but anyhow, fine.
No, I think we agreed in the event of any vote today where there's a division of the vote, we would actually request that any councillor that would like to record their vote against a motion to have it recorded if need be. So thank you for that. All right, councillors, moving along, the confirmation of the minutes of the previous meeting. So the minutes of the General Council meeting of the 8th of December, which seems a long, long time ago. Is someone happy to move those? Moved by Councillor Curtis, seconded Councillor Burns. So they'll be moved and seconded. Councillors, as we normally do, and in the agendas that you obviously have, if you could please just cast your eyes over those to make sure that that's a recollection of the meeting. Any questions? All right, councillors, you seem to be happy with those. It's been moved and seconded. All in favour? Against? Thank you, councillors. That's carried unanimously.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, may I interrupt? I just can't see Councillor Rolfe's hand at that particular point in time. It's dropped off my live stream and had dropped off. So.
Okay, so councillors, just so for probity, councillors, we'll call that again. Those for? I can see everyone's hand. I can't see Councillor Moriarty's, or I can't see. Yeah, Councillor Moriarty, I can see now. Yep, thank you. Against? We don't want people getting sore arms today, so we'll make it as quick as we can. All right, councillors, that's carried unanimously. You happy there, Marnie?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, councillors, any business arising out of those minutes? There are some actions actually recorded, obviously, later on there. Any business arising? All good, we'll move on. A review of outstanding meeting actions. Councillors, it's good to see that list is relatively short. There's obviously the opportunity of officers moving those along. Is there any questions on that actions register? All good, thank you, councillors. And then obviously the review of the upcoming agenda items. And councillors, we did had a bit of a discussion about that in strategic and briefing. So we've had some additions to that. Is there anything else anyone's considered that might need to go onto that? Yeah, Councillor Cypher.
Sorry, it's just finding my thing. Yes, can we please put on there a workshop or something for future projects to be presented with the upcoming federal election, please?
Thanks, Councillor Cypher. The CEO, did you have any comments there in respect of work we're doing on that?
Happy to bring that back to council. I'm preparing what's been handed over to me from the previous CEO as projects that potentially may be attractive to upcoming candidates in the election, and so happy to present that back to council. Thank
you very much, Sharon. Anything else, councillors, you want to add to that list? And as the invitation is always extended, obviously that doesn't need to be today. Any time that there's something that needs to go onto that agenda, certainly make it known to our executive leadership team or Mayor and Deputy Mayor. We'll get them on there. Happy with those, councillors. Any conflicts of interest in today's agenda, councillors, to declare before our meeting gets going? All good. Thank you, councillors. Now, CEO, there are no petitions that have been tabled for today's meeting?
No, Mayor.
Thank you. All right, let's get into the meat of our agenda today, and that starts in our decision action reports. The first one comes under our communities section, which is the Regional Economic Development Incentive. Agenda item, this comes under General Manager John Mcdougall and relates to an application by Blackwater Quarries Proprietary Limited. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good morning, councillors and staff. This morning we have a report here for under the Regional Economic Development Incentive application process for Blackwater Quarries Proprietary Limited. I won't go into a lot of detail here, Mr. Mayor. I will hand over to Sarah Ronfeld, our Senior Planner Strategic Land Use, and Kirsten Byrne, our Manager Planning and Environment, to talk through the report. Thank you, team.
Thank you, General Manager Mcdougall. Good morning, councillors. This report asks for a resolution to be made today that will reflect a correction made to a development permit, which has in turn affected a ready resolution made on the 28th of October 2020. It recommends that an amended resolution be adopted to reflect a change made to the development approval. To be clear, this is not a new application, but rather the report details the change made to an infrastructure charges notice and the subsequent need to amend the previous resolution. An error was made in issuing an infrastructure charges notice with a development permit given to Blackwater Quarries. The notice was given alongside the material change of use approval that permitted Blackwater Quarries to lawfully operate a quarry that had previously been under the control of the state government. During discussions with the applicant, after the notice was issued, it was determined that although the quarry has never paid infrastructure charges, it can be considered a lawfully established use via the exemptions given to transport and main roads. This is because the new application made by Blackwater Quarries was not placing any extra demand on council's network than that of the state. That is, the annual extraction rate remains at 100,000 tonnes. In this regard, no charges should be levied. Charges notice number 394 will be withdrawn once a minor change application is processed. The previous resolution allowed for a rebate of 30% of the assessment fees and 40% rebate of infrastructure charges, plus the cost of a planning certificate. Because no infrastructure charges are now applicable to the development, we are requesting that the resolution be amended to award 30% of the assessment fee, the cost of a planning certificate as before, but with no rebate given for the infrastructure charges, as they have now been reduced to nil. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah, and I guess that's always the potentiality when there's obviously a referral agency involved and there's an existing, I suppose, usage. Councillors, any questions there, I guess, on that calculation or certainly that change? And I suppose, Councillor Moriarty.
Just to clarify that in the report there, that the rebate now to Blackwater Quarries was $21,274.30 and is now $13,274.30. Is that correct?
Through the Mayor, yes, that is correct. The difference is $8,000, which was the rebate for the infrastructure charges. Now they are no longer applicable, then that rebate, won't be given.
Thank you.
All right, so I think that's a win all round. Obviously, if the infrastructure charges applied, obviously the work would have had to have been done. So I guess the incentive is still very valuable. So, councillors, any other questions? All right, well, the recommendation is there that we approve, obviously, the recalculation of the Regional Economic Development Incentive amount, which is now $13,274.30. Is someone happy to move that? Moved by Councillor Byrne, seconded Councillor Brimblecombe. So, councillors, that resolution has been moved and seconded. Those for? Against? Thank you, councillors. That's carried unanimously. You copy that, Marnie?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
All right, councillors, our next report is 12.1.2, which is a councillor nomination to the Central Queensland Regional Waste Management and Resource Recovery Plan Working Group, longest name in the world. And obviously this comes under our community's General Manager, John Mcdougall, again, and officers that he may choose to add to this report. So, John, if you could lead us through this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good morning again, councillors. This report is with regard to a councillor nomination process to the Central Queensland Regional Waste Management and Resource Recovery Plan Working Group. We're seeking a nomination from councillors this morning, Mr. Mayor, and without further ado, I'll hand over to Jeff Atherfold, our Coordinator, Environment and Waste, to talk through the report, and happy to take any questions from there. Thank you.
So Jeff might be still on mute there if he's talking.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, while Jeff submitted from the lobby, I can take over. So as John suggested, the CHRC, Central Highlands Regional Council is part of the CHRC, which was established with various councils within the Central Queensland region to enhance economic growth, social capacity and environmental sustainability of the region. This report is to seek a council member to be part of the CHRC group to move forward with the working group that's been established. It's expected that there will be meetings regularly, and an officer in the Manager of Planning and Environment, and as a proxy to that, the Coordinator Environment and Waste will also attend. So today we're just seeking councillor representation on that working group.
And just to confirm for the minutes that was Kirsten Byrne, our Manager, Planning and Environment.
Thank you, Sharon.
John, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, just one thing I needed to add there. One thing that isn't detailed in the report is just the term of this appointment, if you like, or nomination. Can I suggest that we maybe just slightly change the actual resolution to align that with the term that's left with this current council, if that makes sense? If councillors are happy to do that, and CEO as well. I've just realised that sitting here, that's all. We just haven't got a term there for this particular resolution. So it would probably be, worthwhile just aligning that to the term of the council, what is still left of that term.
Yeah, thank you, John. And words that might just be for the balance period of this local government quadrennial, which is obviously where the CHRC jurisdictional, I guess you'd say, responsibility would change or can subsequently change. So that would be appropriate, I think.
Marnie, maybe just add period there, quadrennial period. Or term, one of the two, yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Councillor Daniels?
Thank you, Mayor Hayes. Through the chair to Kirsten. Kirsten, has there been any indication of time commitment for the working group, for members of the working group?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, There hasn't been a schedule of meetings that have been forecasted for the year, but it's expected that it will be a quarterly basis that the meetings will be held.
Okay. On that basis, I'm happy to nominate myself if the other councillors are supportive of that.
Thanks, Councillor Daniels. I'll just grab a hold of that, Councillor Daniels. I just might go back to John. Is Jeff actually going to speak to this?
Mr. Mayor, I'd prefer if he did. It is his report. Jeff, are you online there now?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. I'm sitting here.
Okay, very good. Would you like just to? Is there any other? I'm not sure how much you heard that Kirsten went through. Is there any other detail that you would like to provide as by way of background for councillors this morning?
Yeah, through the chair. I guess just a bit of background on all this. Central Highlands has been working collaboratively with Rockhampton, Livingston and Gladstone for quite a few years now, going back to when we were part of the CQ Waste Management Forum and shared contracts, both curbside and recycling. That's since disbanded, but we've continued our collaborative relationship with those other councils through the recycling contract that we share. And in fact, we're going through a procurement process with those other councils now to continue that recycling service out of the MRF, or the municipal recycling facility in Rockhampton. So that's just a bit of background there. We've in recent times, the state has developed a waste management strategy, and in more recent and also a organic waste management strategy in line with that general waste strategy. So it's been necessary for us to develop a regional waste strategy to help us manage all those targets as a region and have as I say, a collaborative approach across our region. So that's why the regional waste strategy has been developed. Department of Environment and Science has agreed to fund the development of that strategy, and the first part of that is a $20,000 payment to CHRC to develop the scope of that strategy, and then there'll be ongoing funding to fund that strategy going forward. So that's just a bit of background on where we're at with it.
Thanks, Jeff. And can I confirm that I think the members of CHRC were advised only last evening of the confirmation of that funding that's coming from the Department of Environment and Science. So that's a great achievement for CHRC. So that funding has now been confirmed in writing to the executive of the CHRC. So Councillor Brimblecombe, you have a question or comment?
Just a question. Is it possible to have an alternate in case Councillor Megan Daniels isn't able to attend?
Look, Councillor Brimblecombe, I'm sure that can be the case. So obviously the intent of it is obviously to have a representation from each of the CHRC members. There will obviously be that technical involvement. So if councillors can work it around, and I know both you and Councillor Daniels have had a strong interest in this and representation at different events. So in the event there needed to be an alternative, I'm sure that could be worked out. So I'm happy to nominate both if councillors are happy to do that.
Well, I'll support Councillor Daniels in her application, but could I also put my hand up as an alternate, please?
Councillors, just an indication, happy to support that proposal. Okay, thank you. All right, so councillors, any other questions first? Councillor Daniels.
I was just going to make comment that I'm very supportive of Councillor Brimblecombe being an alternative with me, because as everyone knows, we have very busy schedules and sometimes it just doesn't line up. to be able to attend some meetings. So that would be very, very helpful.
No, I think that's a really good point, Megan. I think having the alternative and being fortunate to have two councillors that are very, very keen on, obviously, and have been supporting lots of these initiatives that we have you both. So the resolution there reads, councillors, that we approve a councillor membership, and that'll be Councillor Daniels. And we might just acknowledge that with Councillor Brimblecombe as the alternate. I see that Marnie's already provided that in there, so if you can just see that on your screens. Is someone happy to move that? Sorry, Councillor Burns has a question first before we move and second that. Councillor Burns?
Yeah, so I just wanted to say quickly, I don't think this is going to be a waste of time, this group. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Burns. I knew I should have been waiting for something good. Marnie, can you, you've got a question?
Can I just ask if Councillor Carpenter has her camera on? I just can't see it at all. So.
Yes, I have, Marnie.
Okay. Oh, now it's there.
Yep. So just in terms of that visual, there may be occasions where in periods of, I guess you'd say, a quiet discussion or non-activity, it may drop off, and obviously then when a councillor obviously comes back on, that will come back up. This is only that's just purely a technological, I guess you'd say, nuance. So it would be clear to councillors or others if they cannot see or hear at any time. We can agree to hold the meeting until that's resolved, but that's often the case. You will see that sometimes technologically they will just not appear on the screen, but certainly we need to know if that's something a little more permanent. So thank you for raising that, Marnie. Well, look, councillors, we have, I guess, that clarification. It's been moved. Sorry, we need a mover and a seconder. It was moved by Councillor Curtis, seconded Councillor Carpenter. All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you very much. And thank you very much, councillors, for your interest. Councillors, our next agenda item comes back to corporate services, and this is our 12.2.1, which is our monthly finance report, coming under the management of General Manager Margaret Gatt, and I'll hand over to Margaret and her officers to present this information. Thank you, Margaret.
Good morning, Mayor Hayes and councillors. We present to you the December monthly finance report, and I'll hand over to Vicky Coleman, our Manager of Finance, to take us through the detail. Thanks, Vicky.
Thank you, GM Gatt. Good morning, councillors. Through the Chair, I present the December Finance Report. The purpose of this report is to provide a monthly update on Council's overall financial position in accordance with the local government regulation. It provides a snapshot of Council's financial position and performance to budget for the period ending 31 December 2021. The key focus of the report is to detail key variances to budget and highlight additional information of interest to Council. The report is divided in 6 key components, being the 3 financial statements, an analysis of the Capital Works Program, business unit results, and a summary of procurement activities, which includes the local buy information. The Statement of Comprehensive Income is provided at Attachment 1. This details the income and expenses reported during the period. The December result was an operating deficit of 5.4 million, reported against a budgeted deficit of 1.5 million, an unfavourable variance of 3.9 million. The year-to-date net result, including capital, is a surplus of 4.9 million against a budgeted surplus of 3.4 million, a favourable variance of 1.5 million. Key variances are due to the following. Revenue is lower than budget by 3.9 million, mostly due to the timing of works under the Roads Maintenance Performance Contracts Program. This is a timing variance. An increase in operating expenses of approximately 843,000 is noted, mostly due to additional materials and services for the water utilities and plant hire. This additional expenditure is being considered as part of the upcoming second budget review process. The capital program actual expenditure to 31 December is 17.1 million against a full budget of 61.5 million, representing a year-to-date spend of 28% This is approximately $5.7 million below the budgeted cash flow for the period. This has resulted from delays in works due to the weather conditions experienced. When commitments are included, the capital spend increases to $41.8 million, representing 68% of the total budget. Also presented in the report are the operating and income positions for the 4 business units. The airport unit has recorded an actual operating surplus of $719,000 against a budgeted surplus of $758,000, a variance of approximately $39,000. This variance has resulted from the expensing of the airport project concept and design expenditure and an increase in employee expenses due to annual leave being taken during the period. This is offset by some increases in revenue areas, including parking. The sale yard unit has recorded an actual operating surplus of approximately $43,000 against a budgeted deficit of $80,000, an approximately variance of $37,000. This is due to an increase in operating expenses offset by additional revenue achieved in feed sales and dipping fees. The waste unit has recorded an actual operating surplus of $870,000 against a budgeted surplus of $655,000, a better than expected result of approximately $215,000 due to additional revenue from refuse disposal and waste levy fees. The water unit has recorded an actual operating surplus of $1.34 million against a budgeted surplus of $1.49 million, a variance of $147,000. This is largely due to additional expenditure in materials and services due to the hire of water filtration plants and associated running costs, and this is offset by decreases in employee benefits and internal plant hire. Variances to budget will be considered as part of the upcoming second budget review process. Local buy statistics for the period ending 31 December show a local spend of $28 million, representing 41% of council spend. Council's cash position as at 31 October is $81.6 million and trade and other receivables is noted at $33.5 million. That concludes the presentation of the December finance report. Happy to take any questions related to the information provided. Thank you.
Thank you, Vicky. And just before I go to councillors, is there any other officers needing to contribute to Vicky's report?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All right, councillors, any questions? And I guess I did intimate at the start of the meeting today that there's working on a number of devices and copies of the agenda. If there was a point or a place that you need to reference, if you could do that, please, councillors. If I might just have a question, and it might be something that could be shared amongst any of the executive leadership team there, in terms of obviously where the capital spend is at the present time at 17 against our full year capital of 61. Are we happy that we're tracking on, I guess you'd say, on schedule there?
Mayor Hayes, I can specifically talk to my low percentage in corporate services. That is literally due to significant delays in being able to receive ICT equipment due to supply chain challenges. But we obviously constantly monitoring that. The percentage compared to the rest of the capital budget is quite small in corporate services, but I've probably got the lowest actual against that. So I thought I'd just share that information with the councillors.
Yeah, thank you, Margaret. These are more just, I think, and I see now that all my general managers have now indicated that they will speak to this, just to give, I suppose, us all a bit of a confidence about where that's tracking for the moment. So I've got Jason Houlihan, our Acting General Manager, Infrastructure first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, look, the SPGG, or the Strategic Program Governance Group, is monitoring the capital spend across the whole of council. While the actuals are quite low at that 17%, we do have a committed value of around the 70% across the whole of the programs. So there's a number of contracts that have been awarded to to either construction companies or as the general manager, corporate services said, suppliers. So in terms of what's committed and what is programmed to be spent in the next few months, we're monitoring it very closely, but at this stage we're still comfortable that we will be able to achieve the full delivery.
Thank you, Jason. Councillors, any questions there on anything Jason's provided there? All right, we'll move to Michelle, General Manager, Customer and Commercial Services, rather.
Thank you. Good morning, Mayor and councillors. I suppose reasonably satisfied with. Apologise, I've got a dog. It's barking at someone. Reasonably satisfied with commercial services, and councillors will be aware now with the settlement of the sale yards appeal matter. We're getting on with the construction of the holding yards, so out to tender in that regard. The fence and grid at the front of the sale yards facility is progressing also. And as councillors, the strategy session we had yesterday in regards to staff housing, you would be aware of the progress in regards to the CapEx spend for the Doringa houses.
Thank you, Michelle. Any councillors, any questions for Michelle's area? All good. And I've got John Mcdougall, General Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, sorry, similar comments, I suppose. There has been some supply chain issues, contractual issues that we've unfortunately just, I think that's a nationwide, worldwide issue at the moment. We're still confident of delivery, though, Mr. Mayor. If you look at our a number of the amount of commitments that we have in place there, if I compare that to previous years, we're certainly well on track to deliver. There is still some minor risk around some service, delivery of product as such to complete some of those projects, but at this point in time, there is still a high level of confidence around delivering on our particular schedule and program.
Thank you, John. Councillors, any other questions? Councillor Brimblecombe.
Just a question on overtime in general. I noticed in the sale yards overtime was up, and also on the RPC contract, the overtime is up. Is there a benefit in that overtime? Are we getting, the best in value out of that overtime? Thank you.
General Manager Michelle.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Councillor Brimblecombe, for the question. Certainly a situation at sale yards we can never predict in regards to the volume of cattle that are coming in any week, and overtime is an ongoing component of the sale yards operations. We do use contractors also where we can, and to limit that, and we particularly have a focus on fatigue also in regards to our staff for that facility, but it's just part of doing business at the sale yards.
Thanks, General Manager Michelle. Acting Manager Jason, have you got some additional information?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, the RPC work, the road performance contract work with Transport and Main Roads is planned overtime. So it's we have the crews doing a 9 and 5 roster, and rather than the standard 8-hour day, they work a 10-hour day. So that overtime is planned. Linking back to the previous statement from the Manager of Finance, some of it is just around the timing and particularly around when the contracts are awarded to Council from Main Roads. Has upset our forecasting a little bit, which is why there's a slight variation in plan versus actuals.
Thanks, Jason. That answer your question, Councillor Brimblecombe? Thank you. All right, councillors, any other questions? Thank you, Margaret, and thank you, Vicky, obviously, for that comprehensive report. That recommendation is there that the Central Highlands Regional Council adopt the monthly financial report for the period ended 31 December 2021. Councillors, can someone happy to move that? Oh, sorry, Councillor Daniels, you have a question first?
Thank you. Just a question to General Manager Gatt. I'm sure she's waiting for me to ask it. Can we please get the rate arrears included in this report as well? I read it many times and I couldn't find it in there, so it's just an important piece of information. Thank you.
Mayor Hayes, Councillor Daniels, I think I have referred to this before, that some of the challenges with the system sounds like an excuse, but we've been working with Tech One consultants to actually configure a report for us to be able to get an aged debtors report and rate arrears report, and it has proven to be challenging. So it is a priority that both Vicky, myself and Tech One are working on to ensure that we actually have that report as soon as possible in the council finance report.
Is a high level, like just the summary number available?
Yeah, I don't actually have that figure off the top of my head. I don't, but yes, I mean, we do monitor that, both Vicky and the rate staff. I can give you a commitment that we'll do everything we can to ensure that we've got something for the next monthly finance report while we continue to work on the detailed report as per previous monthly finance reports.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thanks, Margaret. Councillor, so we've the resolution I've just read there is to adopt our monthly finance report. Is someone happy to move that? Moved by Councillor Rolfe, seconded Councillor Carpenter. So it's been moved and seconded. Councillors, all in favour? Against? Okay, I'm just. Can you see that, everyone there, Marnie?
I just didn't see Councillor Daniels, Mr. Mayor, put her hand up. So.
Okay, sorry. Well, I'm just being very, very careful. Councillors, those in favour? Against? Thank you, everyone. That's carried unanimously. Just checking my vision, and thank you, Marnie, for obviously scrutineering as well. So that's carried unanimously. Councillors, the next agenda item is the 2021-22 operational plan, which is a Q2 report. As I understand it, from previous iterations of this report, I guess there are a number of entities reporting to this. So I'd ask that the executive team that obviously are delivering, they have usually got this pretty well choreographed so that it obviously comes out the way it should. So it obviously comes under the hand of, certainly in the first instance, under here as with General Manager Margaret Gatt and Officer Margarita, or Maggie as we know her. So if someone would like to lead us into this, please.
Thank you, Mayor Hayes and councillors. I'll briefly introduce the report, then I'll hand over to our CEO, Sharon, to take us through the executive summary, and then as per customary practice, each of the general managers will speak to their area. So pleased to report the 2021-22 operational plan for the second quarter ending December. Pleased to say that 84% of 100 activities that make up that operational plan are either on target or have been completed. So if I can now hand over to our CEO, Sharon Houlihan, to take us through the executive summary. Thanks, Sharon.
Thanks very much, General Manager Gatt. I'll speak to the forward in the report and then hand over to each of the general managers to talk to their areas of responsibility. So this report is the second for this financial year, and it's my first as CEO of Central Highlands Regional Council, and it's been really great to be briefed and updated on the status of the projects in the council's operational plan. So we've reached the halfway point in terms of time for delivery of the capital works delivery, and sitting at the end of December at 28.6% of the original budget spent or committed to be spent, and more than half, so 52.5% of projects commenced or completed, which is looking good in terms of delivery of the capital program. Some exciting things happened during the month, which the team will talk about in more detail. But just to highlight, we had a very special visit from Minister Hinchcliffe, the Minister for Tourism, Innovation and Sport, who officially opened the new Blackwater Skate Park, which was a really wonderful day out at the park. I was a bit afraid that one of the officials or councillors or members of the public would be taken out by a wayward scooter or skateboard, but all went well, and it was a really great day to witness. The very popular Seniors Month luncheon was held. I didn't have the opportunity to go to that, but over 200 seniors from our community did, and apparently that was just a lovely, lovely day. And we commenced the first of our career chats with Council Roadshow over that time, and engaging lots of people, and more than 2,500 people engaged with the council through our digital platform, Have Your Say Central Highlands. And the last highlight that I would make is was covered at the previous council meeting, but it was just to congratulate the Emerald Airport being named Large Regional Airport of the Year in the Australian Airport Association's National Airport Industry Awards for 2021. A great testament to the team there at the airport, and obviously the airport is a great source of pride to our community. So with that, I will hand over to the first of our general managers to highlight in his area of responsibility, General Manager of Communities, John Mcdougall.
Thank you, Madam CEO. Good morning again, councillors. Really proud of this quarter. We've, out of the 38 total metrics for me, 4 are under target, which I'll talk about those in a second. I've got 30 on track and 4 have been completed year to date. Not to steal or go over a little bit of detail that CEO Houlihan did. Yeah, really some great hero statistics there. One in particular, very happy that our open space plan was adopted, and in particular 80% of our 10-year agreements have now been completed, and certainly getting good feedback from sport and recreation clubs on that side of things. There were 13,800 dollars worth of RADF grants gifted, if you like, or granted to 3 projects in the last quarter. Some really good stats, 1,469 visitors to Emerald Art Gallery for the last CQCA exhibition, which is just great numbers. And one of the ones we've got there is around 304 tonnes of commingled recycling waste from council, which was recycled as well. There is a lot of detail in there, councillors, and some good reading for you on pages 273 to 275 of your agenda on some of the great things happening in communities. But if I do refer to the 4 that are under target, if we go to page 300 of your agenda, there is the first one is around the development assessment process. So just to talk you through that a little bit, sorry, I'm just getting there, the page, councillors. We set ourselves targets internally which are higher than the statutory timeframe. So just to make this very clear, we have hit all of our statutory timeframes for assessing development applications internally. This is a stretch target that we set ourselves internally here. Unfortunately, if you have a look at some of those targets, as soon as we miss one of those, it's impossible to get us back online. So that is something we'll probably look at in future years. I think we've probably just stretched a bit too far there. Suffice to say, though, it's still a great outcome, and we've been getting a lot of feedback, great feedback from developers, both locally and from far and wide on just how we are exceeding those timeframes from a development assessment perspective. The next one is with regard to development assessment as well, and councillors, you will be aware of this one. This is the revocation process for Blackwater and Blackwater East priority development areas. We're still waiting for Economic Development Queensland to come back to council to make a presentation on where we would like to go forward with this process. That is below target. And look, depending on what happens with COVID, I'm unsure whether this will come back on target nearing into the final stages of the year, but I'll keep you posted. Next one is with regard to our SES facilities. Unfortunately, due to COVID, only 2 of the 8 facilities were able to be audited. So the metric there was all 8 of our SES facilities and associated plant and equipment to be audited. Unfortunately, we're only able to get through 2 before QFERS direction that non-essential activities not be undertaken on those services. So hopefully that will come online later in this financial year. And then the last one was in relation to the attendance or promotion of our Responsible Pet program. The Pet program has been shelved for now due to COVID. Again, we will look to widen or look at alternatives for delivery of our Responsible Pet program there through education or stalls at other places. But yeah, a great quarter for us, and I'll hand over to General Manager Houlihan, I think it is, next. Thank you.
Thank you, General Manager Mcdougall. The operational report today celebrates a big few months in Blackwater in regard to the infrastructure and utilities outcomes, with works continuing on the replacement of the Blackwater water treatment plant raw water pump to ensure a reliable supply to the town. Works were done on the Blackwater wastewater treatment plant to improve the treatment process and to help meet compliance. And that was an interesting project where we replaced some old timber baffles with some new technology, some longer lasting high density polyethylene baffles in part of that treatment process. So looking at some new technology there. From an infrastructure point of view, works continued or commenced on the Waddle Street rehabilitation project, and that's part of our ongoing program of rehabilitation on some of those Blackwater streets. In other parts of the Shire, we continued on work on the scheduled replacement of water meters, replacing over 400 water meters across the Shire, and about 57 hydrants and valves as part of that scheduled maintenance as well. Some projects that we are focusing on to ensure delivery in line with the operational plan, the full adoption of the Project Management Office, where we have been unsuccessful in recruitment of key personnel, so that's delayed some of the full implementation of processes and procedures. And the Water Security Plan, which was due to be completed in this quarter, but is still progressing with consultation being undertaken currently. And there was some delays in finding a suitable consultant that could cover the full breadth of the project scope. From an infrastructure and utilities point of view, things are tracking well. As mentioned, we are focusing our efforts on a few projects that are either on a watch or slightly behind, but we'll continue to do that in line with the operational plan deliverables. I'll now hand over to General Manager Webster to take through customer and commercial services.
Thanks, General Manager Houlihan, and pleased with the department and how we're tracking in regards to our objectives in regards to delivery of the operational plan, generally on target or complete. So that's very pleasing. Thank you also to the CEO who mentioned in her forward address in regards to the award for the airport. Obviously, we're very proud in our work at the airport and how we continue to develop that very important piece of community infrastructure for the region. We also, in regards to customer service, received just over 5,000 customer requests, 6,287 calls received during the quarter, and very pleasing, 91% of those have been dealt with at first point of contact. In regards to the sale yards, we still continue to see unprecedented times for sale yards, and certainly the price of cattle still continues to rise, which is surprising, but just over 14,500 cattle were processed through the sale yards during that quarter as well. We're also pleased to see in regards to some of our property sales. So for the quarter, we had disposed of 10 houses. So they're the aged staff housing that we're progressing the sale of over a 3-year period. We also saw 2 vacant parcels of land in Mcdougall Rise. We do see some pickup of those land sales, which is very pleasing as well. And it's also good to see a couple of houses being constructed within that estate as well. We did also during the quarter see the final settlement of the Mcdougall property, and also we've progressed with some land acquisition for land that has some of council's infrastructure located near the council depot in Capella, but quite pleased with the department's progress. Thank you. And now I'll hand over to General Manager Gaq. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Mayor and councillors, for corporate services, pleased to advise you that our remote work camp connectivity pilot was very successful. So we've deployed satellite internet services for 2 of our work camp and remote work office areas where connectivity has been challenging. This also provides improvements to staff welfare when they're having to work in remote and isolated areas. So feedback from the staff is that the connectivity is stable and reliable, and based on those results, we will roll that out further across all of our work camps. As the CEO mentioned earlier on, we've also had very successful career chats right across all of our areas, such as Blackwater, Capella, Doringa, Emerald and Springshaw. Almost 2,000 people attended those collectively. So we provided information to our community members on council's recruitment processes, career pathways, training opportunities and current vacancies. And based on the success of that and the great feedback, we'll continue doing that during 2022. Growing our own talent, 6 trainees and apprentices have completed their formal qualifications that quarter. We've also recruited another 5 trainees and apprentices with council, and that will bring council's total apprentice and trainee cohort to 14, with career pathways across business administration, civil construction, diesel fitting, finance, information management, information technology, libraries, rangers, safety, sport and rec. And also just quickly finishing off, our corporate records digitisation project, something that we wouldn't often speak about or understand how important that is for us to be compliant with the various acts related to that. In phase 1 of council's record digitisation project, 360 boxes of application and planning documents were returned to the Capella archival site, and staff are now able to access the electronic files more easily. And this has eliminated time spent on physical retrieval, which also reduces our workplace health and safety risks. Phase 1 is now complete with a total of 12,500 electronic files registered into our electronic content management system. And phase 2 will complete in January with a further 450 boxes of documents to be returned to Emerald for archival location. And that's the end of my bit. Thank you, Mayor Hayes and councillors.
All right. Well, that certainly is a lot of information and a very well put together, I guess, presentation that we've been had the opportunity to look through. So, councillors, I know there's a lot there, and obviously there'll be some questions or some comments. So, councillors, over to you. Councillor Moriarty.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, staff. Can everyone hear me? Can all hear me? Great.
Yes, we can.
Excellent. Thank you. I just have a couple of questions and some comments to make, please. Firstly, well done, everyone, with everything that they've delivered in the operational plan this quarter. Just a quick question on page 273, which is page 3 of the operational plan. Just a quick question, I guess it's for your department, General Manager Communities, sorry. I noted that, which is fantastic, that there's been a survey conducted for the council news delivery survey, which was to find out about about how people would like to receive their newsletters online or personal. And I was just wondering, was that an online survey that was conducted?
Councillor Moretti, I will have to check. I think it was a combined. So there was a couple of options you had to provide feedback, but I will double confirm, because it would be. If it was online, you'd probably miss a cohort, if that makes sense. So, yeah, I'll double check and I'll come back to councillors. Cara, no doubt, will be listening here online, and I'll get Cara to send a response of just what that looks like. So can I take that on notice, if you don't mind?
Yeah, thank you very much, John. And next, I just wanted to... on page 20 and 21 of the operational plan, I noted under this, under 2.1.2 heading, that under the column strategy action plan for finalised plans and continue works in Bluff, Comet and Springshaw, I did note, and it always does, as I say each time, confuses me what the criteria is for actually identifying the strategy action in those columns. I just assumed that they related to council's internal documents, but I just noted that there was no strategy action referred / referred to there, and nor in 2.1.3.
Councillor Moretti, it is
overlooked something. Sorry.
You're right. Through the chair, if you go back, I did exactly the same thing when I was reviewing my comments for today. It actually refers to so the strategy action plan is the open space recreation plan / master plan. So that's the strategy action plan. It's just that it's fallen on the next page, if that makes sense. So it's under 2.1.2. The strategy action plan is the open space recreation plan master plan. The key activity is the beautification planning. In that situation, we're talking about there is finalise the plans and continue works in, but it actually is referring to the beautification planning. But I can see how that is confusing, because I should have probably referred to finalise the beautification plans, if that makes sense. Yeah, I can see how that is confusing. I apologise.
Thank you. I suppose if you had to ask questions, and I did, I suppose the public might too.
Yeah.
And the reason why I specifically did ask about that item, particularly under 2.1.2, is obviously, as with all councillors, we're very keen to see the beautification projects go through, and of keen interest in Bluff as well. The others I have are comments. The comment I would like to make comments to page 40 of the operational plan, under 5.3.1. So I note there we've got under the strategy action plan, which is the current corporate planning and performance management framework. The interesting thing I've found with this one is that under that current framework, we actually have a strategic level. Well, the last time I looked at it, when we adopted it in 2022 and reviewed it since then, we had a strategic level, which was the long-term community planning visioning, which, as everybody knows, that's a community's voice and vision long-term into council's long-term financial asset management planning, capital works, as well as into the next level down, which is the corporate planning or business level. And then the next level down is the operational level of council. I just found it quite ironic that the comments and for that were the development of an integrated strategic planning and reporting framework. I thought it was interesting we used the word strategic, given we've taken the strategic element out of that, is what has been my observation going forward. The other comment I would like to make, again, are confused with how we choose what headings we put into strategy action plan, particularly referring to on page 41, the item 5.3.2 under Local Government Act 2009. Under the comments there, again, we're referring to the progress of a corporate plan. I just noticed in the comments that there wasn't any reference there to that, council are bringing in a consultant to help with that process, which would have been also good to include there, because I think that given that this organisation has the skills and capacity to do that internally, I just think that would be a good thing to have added in there. The other thing I would like to make an observation going forward, or perhaps it's a suggestion, but going forward, just so that it's very clear that this quarterly operational plan report or plan is a report back to the community only on the operational expenditure aspects of council, and going forward to make sure that we're inclusive of the great work that's happening in the capital expenditure area, that we have review, I guess, the format of this plan to include some more highlights that's more holistic of the great work that council's doing on behalf of its ratepayers. That's about all, and again, well done on all the hard work the staff have been putting in and everybody's been putting into the this quarter.
Thanks, Councillor Moriarty. Councillors, any other questions, observations? All good. Well, look, councillors, for a lot of work, it's a very, very short council recommendation there, which is that we receive that operational plan Q2 performance report, and as to reflect certainly on Councillor Moriarty's comments, this is an excellent, I suppose, snapshot of where we are, and I appreciate a lot of work goes into being able to obviously articulate it, and certainly that it's reflected certainly in that the graphics I know are very good, but it's certainly in the strategic action planning that actually must go with it. So obviously it holds us in good stead. So councillors, what we might do is we might actually deal with this resolution now. It's about 10:15. At the end of this report, we might take a break for 15 minutes and come back to the rest of the agenda. So we might adjourn at that point. But at the moment, we'll deal with this resolution here, which is the Central Highlands Regional Council Operational Plan Q2 Performance Report. Someone happy to move that? Moved by Councillor Carpenter, seconded by Councillor Burns. Councillors, that has been moved and seconded. All in favour? Against? Thank you. Sorry, Councillor Moriarty, I think you voted against?
That's correct,
That's
Mr.
correct.
Mayor.
Okay,
Not
well,
everything in there is what I agree with. So
Okay then, so would you like that vote recorded?
thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Moriarty. Councillor, that's carried 8-1. All right, well, as I said, councillors, I think it's a good opportunity that we adjourn the meeting for 15 minutes. So we'll be back here at 10:30. And then I'll do that, if you'll indulge me, councillors, I might just do that sound check when we either re-enter the meeting, just to make sure that councillors are present when we move in to the next part of our agenda. So we'll adjourn till 10:30. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll probably just to support Andrea in her comments there and to comment a little bit about the existing use of that camp. So it is an integral part of our infrastructure delivery for both maintenance and capital works in the south of the Shire, and it is used a significant portion of the time by our staff I guess from an efficiency point of view and a fatigue management, having camps in strategic locations. As part of our camp strategy, which I've brought to council previously, it is one of those key locations that we have recently invested some money in upgrading the existing facility. We were at that point unaware of the tenure issue, and we, as I said, we have done some recent upgrades to that facility in line with that camp strategy. So, to support the resolution from an infrastructure point of view, it is integral that we maintain that camp facility in Rolleston or an alternative. And as mentioned, the cost of an alternative location and re-establishing a like-for-like facility is significantly more than the purchase of the land. At this point, I believe we have a very good relationship with all the adjoining property owners, and hopefully that will continue. And happy to undergo that consultation with Andrea in regard to our existing use and future use of that site.
Thanks, Jason, and I probably should have given others the opportunity to add to that report at the time. So, Councillor, that's extra information there. We certainly have the motion or the resolution moved and seconded by Councillor Rolfe and Councillor Wilcone. Is that the mover and the second there, if I can read that? Yes, that's correct. As I said, a recommendation in two parts, councillors. All in favour? Against? Thank you, councillors. That's carried unanimously. Thank you very much, Michelle. Thank you, Andrew, and thank you for those additional comments, Jason. Councillors, the next agenda item relates to apply community organisation exception to enter licence agreements, and this is part of Lot 2 on SP 181608. And as you can read in your report, this relates to certainly another lease area. And I'll refer to those same two officers, General Manager Michelle and Andrea, to lead us again into this item. Just before I do that, though, General Manager John, you had a question?
Mr. Mayor, there just seems there might be a problem with the council website. I've just been informed that if you and look, live streamers aren't going to know this, but if they go straight through to YouTube, you will still be able to see the live stream. But apparently, people can't get on. There's something going on with the council website to be able to access the live stream. I'm not sure whether you've got any of the IT guys next to you there or near you.
Okay.
Through the chair, I've got Connor in the room with me at the moment.
Thanks, Marnie.
So I just might defer then, I think, to CA Sharon. In the event that there's, this is a little bit different from live streaming, and we've had interruptions to live streaming when we've been in the boardroom, and there's actually been the, I suppose, the open council meeting that's provided in a physical sense. Does this compromise us continuing, CEO, as you understand it?
In terms of the legislation, no. It's an if possible requirement for live streaming when you have a fully virtual meeting, but it more comes down to the council. So legislatively, we are okay to continue, or we could, if councillors prefer, adjourn for a short period to get that link working again in the name of access and inclusion.
Right. Thank you, Sharon. Marnie?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Connor just mentioned to me that it's our actual website that's down, and as John mentioned before, the public can still access the meeting through the YouTube channel.
Okay. So on that basis, councillors, are you happy to proceed on the basis that there is a social media platform still availing the meeting to people? I'm not assuming for one moment that everyone knows the nuances of accessing it through the council website or indeed their own YouTube accounts. Probably the latter more likely. I guess are people happy to continue? Councillor Roll.
Question, Mayor, is that while they can access it on YouTube, would they be able to see it later on in its entirety on the council website?
Marnie, that might be a question you can pose to Connor if he's beside you.
Mr. Mayor, he's indicating, nodding his head, saying yes to me.
Okay. So that's an answer is yes, Councillor Rolfe. General Manager Margaret.
Mayor Hayes, I just wanted to make the comment that we've got some statistics here to say that there's 9 people watching the live stream via the YouTube.
Okay. All right. So on that basis, councillors, I guess just on an indication, given that there is access currently, and obviously if it resumes, but there will be obviously a recording later. Are we happy to continue? Just an indication, please. Those in favour? Against? Okay, we'll proceed. Now that's interrupted my train of thought. So we'll move back to that agenda item 12.3.2, which is the community organisation exception to enter licence agreements. I'll hand over to you, General Manager Michelle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillors, the report before you today is another report that relates to the Blackwater Golf Club, and you will recall, I think this is perhaps one of the most reported matters to Council. The report today is another step in regards to the process of moving forward in regards to licences to 2 community organisations, so that we can progress this matter following the Blackwater Mine Workers Club going into liquidation. I'll hand over now to Andrea Hewitt, Coordinated Property Services. Thank you.
Thank you. So this report is seeking to apply the community organisation exception to progress licences with the Blackwater Mine Workers Club Limited and the Sagittarius Creek Golf Club Limited for access, use of and maintenance of the golf course located on Lot 2 SP 181608. So councillors will be aware that this site has a long history of council reports, and there is an ongoing process to freehold convert both Lot 1 and Lot 2 and the subdivision of Lot 2 to then dispose of at cost to the Blackwater Mine Workers Club Limited. This will be part of a future council report. So the Blackwater Mine Workers Club have identified the area of land which they wish to acquire from council following freehold conversion, and the map is attached to the notes and provides the subdivision area for the Blackwater Mine Workers Club. So council is still waiting on the decision from the state for the freehold conversion. I was expecting it this week, but it hasn't come through as yet. So the licenses will be for the balance area of Lot 2, so outside the proposed subdivision area. The Blackwater Mine Workers Club will need a licence to allow access for their liquor licence purposes, and the Sagittarius Creek Golf Club is also the entity that will be undertaking the maintenance on the grounds associated with the golf course. This will also include a third-party recycled water agreement for use of the recycled water. So this is part of the requirements of Council's Environmental Authority. So it should be noted that the Sagittarius Creek Golf Club is generally referred to as the Blackwater Golf Club. However, there has been some issues with registering that entity as the Blackwater Golf Club. So they will be seeking to change their name once the Blackwater Mine Workers Club administration and liquidation process finalises. There has been ongoing discussions and negotiations with both parties for the term and conditions of the licence, and the specifics are noted in the report. As noted in the report, there are requirements under the local government regulation about entering agreements without first inviting tenders. In this case, there is an exception that applies for a community organisation. Both entities meet the community organisation definition under the regulation. For the exception to apply, Council must first resolve to apply the exception. The resolution provides to apply the exception to both the Blackwater Mine Workers Club and the Sagittarius Creek Golf Club, and it notes that the entity name may change for the Sagittarius Creek Golf Club, but the ABN will remain the same. The
the due diligence and negotiations of terms and conditions will be delegated to the Chief Executive Officer. I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you very much, Andrea. And you're right, there's been a significant amount of obviously reporting to councils, and there always will be, given the extraordinary circumstances in terms of the tenure there and certainly the activity of the entities that have traditionally been on there. But I guess with the greatest respect, that is starting to become quite clarified, and this is another step in that process. So, councillors, questions? I see Councillor Brimblecombe.
Just a question in relation to the grey water irrigation area which is on the western side of the creek. Are we doing maintenance, as in mine, on that area, or will Sagittarius Golf Club be doing that?
Through the chair, that area has been identified as a potential further use of that recycled water, and we've had a few interested parties wanting to license that area as well, or lease that area. So that would be a separate part from our perspective. So I've discussed that with the water utilities manager about that. So we would be not including that section as part of these license agreements. That would be a separate tender process where they could use it for, cropping or, I don't know, lucerne or something like that. So it'll be part of a separate process once we get the freehold conversion up and running, basically.
All right,
Thank
thanks.
you.
Thanks, Andrea. Councillor Moriarty.
Thank you very much. Just a question to say that, to find out or clarify that basically council has to approve this recommendation so that both of the community organisations can basically it's exclusive for them to go through the process then of acquiring the land?
No, so they're two separate processes. So this is outside of that subdivision area. For that subdivision area, we would be seeking a community organisation exception for the disposal of that subdivision area directly to the Blackwater Mine Workers Club. This area is for a licence. It's for a non-exclusive use. So that allows 2 licences to be put over that particular area. So that's why we're seeking for those 2. And we have to do this for all community organisations. If we're entering a licence over 12 months or a lease agreement, we need to be applying a community organisation exception. So this is for the use of and access of that land. So we've got some parameters around that, having that things like the liability insurances and so forth. So it's just for the use, it's not for the purchase. So we are keeping that balance of that lot. Does that answer the question?
Yes, sort of. Still a bit confused, but thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. Councillor Rolfe.
Andrea, in the officer recommendation under 2A, the name of the entity may be subject to change, but the ABN stays the same. Does that have any implications for council if that does happen? In process, I suppose.
So provided that we can put terms in the licence to address any entity name change, the ABN is still going to be the same. So the entity is essentially still going to be the same. So they're still going to have that registration as an incorporated entity. The name's just going to be different. So there shouldn't be any issues with that. So we can put conditions in the licence to address that anyway. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks again, Andrea. Any other questions, councillors, before we look at the resolution? All good. Well, thank you. And councillors have obviously read the detail in there, and there's certainly reference to different sections, 236, which is obviously relates to this particular or peculiar, I suppose, requirement. And obviously the third part is that delegation, obviously, to enter into some licences with each of the proponents. So, councillors, in three parts there. Is someone happy to move that resolution? Moved by Councillor Rolfe, seconded Councillor Brimblecombe. All in favour? Against? Okay, Councillor Moriarty, you voted against it. Would you like that vote recorded?
Yes, please. Still confused.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor
Thank
Moriarty. All right, councillors, the next agenda item moves, I think, to infrastructure and utilities. 12.4.1, which is the endorsement of nomination for Building Better Regions Fund Round 6. This comes under the acting manager, general manager, rather, infrastructure and utilities, Jason. If you could run through these, please, Jason.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, to cut it short, it is exactly that. It is to endorse nominations for the Building Better Regions Fund Round 6, and I'll hand over to the manager of our project management office, Kim Downey, to present this report.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, councillors. As just stated by both the Mayor and the General Manager, this report is about seeking endorsement of projects proposed for application for funding through Building Better Regions Fund. This is round 6 of the Building Better Regions program, has a total allocation of $250 million. It's available to fund both community investment projects and infrastructure projects. Community investment projects may receive grants of up to $1 million, with infrastructure projects may receive grants with the value up to $10 million. Generally, 50% of eligible costs would be covered by the funding, but as Central Highlands Regional Council is listed as a remote area, we're actually eligible for 80% funding of the costs. Applications opened on the 13th of December and close on 10th of February, with successful projects to be completed by 31st of December 2024. If Council was successful with any of their applications, the funds, we would be advised in mid-2022. So the projects would need to be included in next financial year's work program. The Project Management Office received 11 proposals from 6 departments, with values ranging from $70,000 through to $5 million for the upgrading of the Springshore Pool. One of those projects was deemed to not to be eligible for the funding. All the proposals were presented to the SPGG, Strategic Program Governance Group meeting of 19th of January. And at this meeting, an additional 3 projects were removed from the recommendation for consideration. These projects were security cameras for the sale yards, the raw water line for Blackwater School, and the Park Avenue Inlet Works. Following this meeting, a preliminary high-level assessment of the projects, the remaining projects, was undertaken to determine relevant rank, and the outcome of this ranking has been included in the attached report. Project that ranked number 1 was to replace the filters at Warringah Water Treatment Plant with a total value of $3.7 million. And this project is that detailed design has been completed and is considered to be low risk for failure of delivery. Any questions?
Thank you, Kim. Look, I guess just for the purpose of clarity here, and I mean some of them are very obvious, but there's one with the projects that have been placed there in the report, and obviously the briefings we've had. There's the infrastructure project stream and then the community investment stream. So if you would run down the list, obviously the first one obviously relates to infrastructure.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, they are actually all infrastructure projects.
Okay.
Yes.
The reason I was asking, Kim, was just because, I mean, some of them do relate to, I know it says community development activities, but it says also leadership. It actually refers to those, I guess you'd say, those community structures, and I didn't know whether there was a crossover there or a confusion, but they're all potentially all infrastructure, as you see.
Yes, they are. They are.
Okay.
The community investment program has a focus on strengthening communities, and in particular, funding would be available for new community events, or to provide support to the expansion, a significant expansion of a current community event. Also covered things like improvement leadership skills within local government.
All right, thanks, Kim. All right, councillors, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 there. Councillors, for your comment. Sorry, Jason, you've got your hand up there.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a point of clarification, our Manager of Project Management Office is working on a number of grants at the moment and opportunities. She did say that the projects were eligible for 80% of funding. In this one here, I know that the other grant she's referring to is 80%, but this one here is 75%, just for transparency, that council would be eligible to claim. And with regard to the resolution, the 7 eligible projects have been put in the resolution, and those each funding application does require a considerable amount of resources to pull together. So council may wish to reduce that resolution to a number more suitable, like 2 or 3, the top 2 or 3 projects to be submitted, or they may consider all to be eligible and would like submissions put in for all of those. So just highlighting that that's an option to council.
Yeah, thank you, Jason. You'll be in corporate services before you know it. Thank you for putting the handbrake on that percentage there. So thank you, Jason. Councillor Daniels.
Thank you, Mayor Hayes. Just seeking clarification. I'm referring to the attachment, Building Better Regions proposed projects. I just note in the status, okay, so the planning and design has been completed and this is now for the funding of construction. Okay, that's fine. That's what's meant by the status, not what the funding is being sought for?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, Councillor Daniels, that is what stage the project is currently at.
Mm-hmm. No, that's fine. I was going to correct it for the purpose of the public, but I realise now what is meant by that table, that indication. Back to what General Manager Houlihan mentioned, I would be supportive of a lesser amount, because we do know from, historical applications that you're only going to receive one or two successful applications. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Councillor Daniels. Councillor Moriarty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just one comment just to say that the community investment stream, going forward, it would be good to have some initiatives in that. I don't know if that's a regular stream as part of this funding or not, but if it is, that would be great. And I would assume it wouldn't be just to benefit council, it would be to benefit like the region as well. And there's plenty of organisations, including CHRC, we could be linking with potentially to come up with some great projects under that one. I just wanted to concur with Councillor Daniels there that I think that a lesser number given the past history and given the amount of effort would go into, developing up the grant applications for all of these projects. It would be good to select, 2 or 3, I think, to hang our hats on. And also, I was just wondering, at what point, or do you wait till the funding grants are successful, that I guess the the effects, I guess, on the long-term asset management and financial management planning. So if, for example, the top 3 got up, then that's, around that $2.2 million. Just wondering, does that mean that council has to find that extra, or would some of those projects already have been scheduled for next year? I'm just wondering about the impact of the budget for next year. Basically, if they get up, I guess what might be taken off, given we've got a limited budget.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Moriarty, the first 2 projects there, Duringa Filter Upgrade and Blackwater Community Centre, are both classed as renewal projects, so that they are part of identified asset renewal programs. They will need to happen regardless of whether we get external funding or not. So success in these applications reduces the impact on council's financial resources.
Yeah, thanks, Kim. Councillor Rolfe?
So the third one, the Springshore Pool, I'll start off with a question to John. How far along the process is the Parks and Gardens in, I suppose, scoping up this plan?
Thanks, Councillor Rolfe. We've had extensive talks with the real key stakeholders in the Springshore community in particular. We have got a preliminary design that has come forward and a report that's put forward a cost estimate based on where that consultation has landed. So it is down the track a fair way. And similar to Kim's comments there before, look, we're only at the start of the budget process for next year, but it has been flagged as a capital project in our budget bids for the next 2 years moving forward. So just to confirm that as well, Councillor Rolfe. Obviously, that needs to go through the process for, that budgeting process. So.
And further to that, John, there has been, over the last 5 or 6 years that I've been on council, a maintenance renewal budget item for the Springshore Pool.
Yeah, that's correct, and that's fair to say, Councillor Rolfe, that has been increasing significantly each year. The age of that, it is at end of life, and what I can confirm, based on where we're at with the project, we would be ready to start this in July, August 2022. So that will give you an indication of how far we're advanced with the planning of that project.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Councillor Rolfe. Councillor Carpenter?
Just a question about, are any of these projects eligible for funding from any other pool, or is this the only pool available for some of them?
I can just jump into some, but just while officers collect their thoughts there. They would. Certainly, I have, I suppose, considered that under the Resources Community Infrastructure Fund, some of these would have qualified. Some wouldn't have, without actually knowing the absolute detail. I think we sort of established that perhaps they could have, but I guess it's just in terms of, these particular processes are quite inconsistent in their timing. They turn up. There's no scheduling sometimes around the opportunities when they turn up, and as much as I guess in terms of where our rigorous sort of assessment and prioritisation of some of these projects are, they'll either be things that we'll budget for, I guess you'd say, as projects we can undertake ourselves. And when we talked about multi-criteria assessment or multi-criteria, I suppose, factors that actually creep into assessing how these things go, there's always, I guess, a variable in terms of the fact that in our local government land, there's always going to be this environment of contestable funding, and the fact that if you look at certainly the financial position of councils in Queensland, it would seem that we are a little bit more focused and driven towards making sure that, I guess, in any assessment we do of projects, it perhaps can be that other column of the likelihood of us getting funding from anyone else other than government or two levels of government. So in this instance, some of them certainly perhaps could. If you looked at sometimes building our regions, and they sometimes change the flavour of those, and that's the bigger of the state funds. And then certainly things like the Resources Community Infrastructure Fund, that is a complete one-off. That was quite a unique set of circumstances by which the state coerced, I guess you'd say, resource companies into providing funds to an infrastructure fund that had really no particular direction or scope, I guess, at the time, but it became that way. But it's effectively, in most cases, Building Better Regions Fund, which is a federal government fund, and then the Building Our Regions funds with the state. There's other funding that we've been accessed at, probably resilience funds through the Reconstruction Authority and those sorts of things. They're the kind of major ones. And I guess if officers had any additional information there, Councillor Carpenter, that might add to that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will respond to this question. So in doing the assessment, we do look at other alternatives, and if we can use the Park Avenue Inlet Works project at the bottom of the list as an example. So it has previously been applied for it was applied for as part of round one of the resource program, and it was unsuccessful in that program. So we've highlighted it for a future round funding, which closes in March, for the local government grants and subsidies program. So we do look at projects in context of other funding opportunities, and in some cases projects may be eligible for multiple criteria of known grant funding sources, and as the Mayor said, occasionally there are other sources that come periodically which weren't sort of planned, that we take the opportunity as well.
Thank you.
General Manager Michelle.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. And yes, so as indicated, there are a number of different funding pools available. In regards to the airport and sale yards, previously, Councillor Carpenter have been successful in securing funds from Building Better Regions funds, which is a federal government one. I suppose both as infrastructure that are economic drivers as well. And certainly in regards to the airport, and particularly that one in regards to the Ralston runway, we have been successful previously also in regards to remote and regional airstrips fund that comes about from time to time as well.
Thanks, Michelle. Well, look, councillors, I guess that's probably a pretty good overview of the place we find ourselves at, and the environment around which we sort of, I guess, enter these projects into. I guess if I was going to have a crack at, I suppose, the prioritisation, I'm in agreement certainly with Councillor Daniels that just looking at the contribution that certainly we would have to find, and the priority that I guess our process has delivered, I'd be happy for the first three projects to be considered on the basis of, and certainly my logic would be that There are some mitigating circumstances against the others that have happened subsequently. I think in terms of community housing, there's a bigger conversation that might have to happen there, and I appreciate that officers have diligently recognised the need for these sorts of things to help. But I think there's some work we need to do, and there's been that conversation at Rolleston recently with the Blackwater Pool. When we say we talk about other potential partners, there's certainly an opportunity there to talk to some other partners perhaps in that community, and we've taken this previously to resource company roundtables, so there might be some opportunities there. And in relation to the sale yards, well, I would just say that in terms of a priority, I think those other three that are at the top would certainly warrant our consideration first. So if to kick the conversation off, I'd be very happy to endorse those first three, but I'm happy to hear what councillors are saying. Councillor Moriarty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, I thought I had my hand up before, but the other thing I wanted to mention as another overlay of cross-checking grant types, there's often grant types that only fund new infrastructure, like the resource communities funding, and then there's others like this that fund both new infrastructure and upgrades. And upgrades is a really important aspect, because it's been my observation that there's not a lot that do the upgrades. But yes, I actually would like to put forward, because you get, I think, more bang for your buck. I would actually like to put forward project 1, the Duringa filter upgrade, the Springshore pool, and updates of the community housing. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Moriarty. My apologies. I'm sorry if I missed follow that. Sorry. Other councillors, ideas on perhaps projects? And look, I respectfully say that, you know, if I ever thought that we'd get all of them up, it'd be great. But certainly understanding that the contribution we still have to make and our resources are still got to be taken into consideration. I'm happy with the part, I suppose, application of just a smaller number of those projects. So, Councillor Moriarty's had a go. Anyone else add to that? Well, so far, I guess this is going to be, I've sort of certainly indicated the first three. Councillor Moriarty's extended or dropped out the Blackwater Community Centre and preferred to go to the community housing. Councillors happy with that, or?
Mayor, Councillor Rolfe has her hand up.
Yeah, Councillor Rolfe, yep.
Mayor, yeah, so if you take in the 4, that brings it up to nearly $3 million council contribution. So we're probably not going to get them all up anyway. So let's, yeah, I agree with that. Let's put the 4 up.
Right. Who else have we got? Councillor Burns.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Is there a reason we're excluding the Rolleston runway? I think that's probably a safety issue for the community, have a good runway for emergency services, that's all.
With your indulgence, General Manager Michelle, I did participate in that conversation with Councillor Rolfe and Councillor Carpenter at Rolleston the other day, and the options for the airstrip and certainly the community interest there were expounded pretty comprehensively. So it's a case of there's some options there. The risk management that's been applied by certainly Solomon in his role has been appropriate, I guess you'd say, and I think there's some more options that have got to be sort of fleshed out there. So I'm only thinking in terms of the timeliness. The Rolleston option might be a hybrid version of what was initially applied for, and that was the reason Solomon went there, to get some community feedback. and that's been had. So I guess I'm only using the benefit of having been there and participated in that meeting, that I don't think that it would be, obviously, if we can get any funding extra, if that's the option that's preferred. But at this stage, I think Solomon would like to come back to us and get some, I suppose, clarification around that first, Councillor Burns. So that might help. I don't know whether General Manager Michelle, could you add anything to that, or?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I concur with your comments. The risks were known before the meeting, and we had applied appropriate risk mitigation within the ERSA for pilots restricting certain plane landing on that strip. We do have a fortnightly observation officer and ARO that goes out and inspects the strip. I would think, Jermaine, there are other opportunities for funding, particularly for that runway in regards to, let's firm up, have a little bit more time to firm up exactly what we're going to do and what's appropriate. And, bearing in mind, I wasn't at the meeting, but I've had a briefing from that and read the notes from the meeting in regards to, apparently there's very little use of it. They're telling us, so that is very interesting, and we need to weigh that up as well. And we also know, in regards to comments about Royal Flying Doctor Service, I mean, very limited use, if at all, of the strip. We did build a helipad at the Rolleston airstrip for that purpose, for emergency services. So I think there's another opportunity for another funding pool if that's the way we move forward.
Thanks, Michelle. Joe, I hope that helps. Councillor Moriarty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to be very clear, I proposed projects, Duringa filter upgrade, the Springshaw pool, and updates of the community housing. I think that the Blackwater Community Centre, I'd love to be supporting that project. However, I think that it looks more affordable for us within our budget-wise. The reason why I'm saying prefer adding in there upgrades of community housing, because it's very hard to find funding where you can get that kind of funding to do those kind of projects. I think that we've looked at how much, if we don't do something in that area and support upgrades and do more with the community housing, it's just going to continue to keep costing council a lot of money. And then there's also, if the upgrades happen, there's also some opportunities going forward for council around its community housing. So that was why I chose those three. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Moriarty. No, the only reason I guess I wasn't disagreeing with you is that the community housing, sometimes with the federal government funding, they get a bit ikey about funding what is fundamentally state, I suppose you'd say, what they call state operations. So and there is that conversation from the housing company we're trying to, I guess, establish. I know that our housing company have been obviously council have been funding the purchase of some housing that we've been able to put in there, and I guess we've looked at the opportunity with council's community housing, but Isaac's got $8 million from the RCIF for their housing trust, which is exactly the same, and that was out of a state fund. So that was the only reason why I guess I didn't include. I'm absolutely agreeing with you that there's very few opportunities to get some, so I'm quite happy to have it in there. So, Councillor Seifert.
Yes, I'm happy to support the top four. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Councillor Seifert. Councillor Rolfe.
Mayor, just for information, that the remote airstrip upgrade program round 9 opens on the 3rd of February. So that would be one for the Rolleston runway rehabilitation that GM Webster was talking about. Thank you.
All right, councillors. Well, look, that's a pretty good assessment of the projects. I'm going to sort of possibly offer in the first instance that we recommend the first 4 projects for consideration. So I guess now, just before I do that, Councillor Moriarty, you raised the issue about the community investment stream. Are we confident as a council that there's nothing that we could actually, obviously consider now, or would it be something that would be too rushed to try and get it into this particular round?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If you're asking my opinion, I'm sure that you're probably asking that of officers and others, but I think that obviously it will be too rushed because you'd have to develop up your project plans, wouldn't you, and to support your funding applications. But just that if this is a stream that's usually included, it would be excellent if we, were able to bat up some projects in there. But that's just my opinion.
No, and happy and agree with you. And I think it is, from my observations, there are now usually 2 streams. Can I say, and probably much to your chagrin, it's generally 70% infrastructure, 30% community. But that's generally a mix, and whether we like it or whether we don't, that's usually the mix. But I think if we get the message, I'm agreeing to the fact that as a community that is very innovative about community projects, it would be good to think about perhaps how we might participate in those. So I appreciate your input, Councillor Moriarty. Well, look, councillors, can I recommend that we endorse projects 1, 2, 3 and 4 in the columnised presentation that we have today, which are the Jeringa filter upgrade, the Blackwater Community Centre, the Springshaw Pool, and the updates of community housing that have been provided. And furthermore, that if the application is successful, Council will commit to the inclusion of required funds in the 22-23 budget as Council's contributions to the project. Is someone happy to move those as they are? Sorry, before I do that, General Manager Michelle.
Sorry, Mayor. I just would like to clarify with Council if there is support in regards to the remote airstrip funding, which Councillor Rolfe spoke to, that opens on the 3rd of February. If there is consensus with Council for us to move forward to apply in that funding, just consideration as to whether you may wish to include that within the resolution so that officers have that formal resolution to progress.
Look, Michelle, just think off the bat here, thinking of that, I think on the basis of just probably a little bit more information, I would prefer to wait because with the greatest respect, I mean, some of us have a very, very good and immediate sort of knowledge of perhaps those options. So I think we're going to get to our first February meeting pretty quickly. So I appreciate what you're saying, and I know sometimes it always looks like we're just getting the resolution just in time, and I know a lot of work happens beforehand. But I think for the purposes of just keeping this fairly clean, we'll leave that and pick it up in that first February meeting, if you don't mind.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yep, thank you. All right, Councillor Cypher. You'll just have to come off mute, Councillor Cypher, sorry.
Sorry, I'll have to start from scratch. I agree with what you just said. All councillors haven't even received the minutes of that Ralston meeting yet. So, and as a member of the Airport Advisory Committee, I'd at least like to know what the community spoke about and have more details on that project. Thank you.
Yep. No, I agree, Councillor Cypher. We'll certainly get those out. And it was a really, really good process, and I acknowledge Solomon's work there. It worked very well, and the people that probably make good contributions were good stakeholders, and that were there. So we'll get that out to you, as we said yesterday. We'll need to get those minutes to you. All right, sorry. So getting back to the colonisation, we potentially raising the first 4. Is someone happy to move those? Moved by Councillor Moriarty, seconded Councillor Brimblecombs. So you've got those captured there well, Marnie. Has our accountant, Jason Houlihan, actually gone through those figures, or?
No, Mr. Mayor, I haven't checked them, sorry.
No, that's fine. I'm sure we'll get those right. All right, councillors have been moved and seconded. All in favour? Against? Thank you, councillors. Carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Thank you, Jason, and to all of the organisation. I think it's pleasing to see, obviously, the awareness of making sure that obviously, grants and assistance is a big part of how we run our business, and being successful at them is very, very important. Councillors, we move to the 12.5 part of the agenda, which comes under our CEO, Sharon, and that's in relation to some forums and conferences. The first one, 12.5.1, is the Australian Local Government Women's Association National and Queensland State Conferences, and I might hand over to Sharon to brief us on those.
Thanks, Mayor. So this report is a pretty simple one. It's just to determine if councillors or which councillors may like to attend the upcoming Local Government Association of Queensland Waste Forum to be held at the Australian Local Government Women's Association National and Queensland State Conference, which is upcoming on the 1st to the 3rd of March. So assuming that the conference goes ahead despite COVID risk, then we'll just work on that basis. But the recommendation is that Central Highlands Regional Council be represented at this conference if there's councillor interest in doing so.
All right, thank you. And as usual in your reports there, Marnie provides obviously the implications for us on certainly members' budgets there. So, councillors, I guess interest. Councillor Burns.
Yeah, this comes up every year. We've really got to organise our own conference, man. We're getting left behind every year.
I'm pretty sure that's not the case, Councillor Burns, but in terms of the vast majority of our council, I think you're not going to win that. Councillors, interest in attending if we can, whether in person or virtually? Silence is golden. All right, councillors, well, if there's no nominations for that, I guess at some point that happens, obviously we would have to know fairly soon, Marnie, if that was the case.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you. Councillor Cypher.
It might be worth mentioning, Mr. Mayor, that males can attend. It's not exclusive to females.
Thank you very much, Councillor Cypher. And I did know that, but I thought I'll leave Councillor Burns to have his moment there. So, but look, councillors, I fully appreciate, and I know Councillor Daniel said this morning. It's very, very difficult given the circumstances and certainly the amount of work that we're all trying to do in our communities here to get away. So I appreciate that perhaps that's not something we can attend to, and obviously they'll be sweating on obviously attendance at that as well. So for the moment, if there are no attendees, that we'll just let that recommendation sit. I think is that what we do, Mr. CEO?
Yes, Mayor, that's fine.
Yep. Okay, we'll let that lie. Right. Well, CEO, that's one from one strike out there. 12.5.2 is the Lgaq Waste Forum, which is on the 8th to 10th of March. I'll leave that to inform us about that.
Yes, so another opportunity for a conference here in an interest area to many councillors and officers. We do have General Manager Mcdougall and our Manager Planning and Environment, Kirsten Byrne, planning on attending this forum on the 8th to 10th March in Brisbane. And if there is any interest in from councillors in attending that forum, that's what we're seeking to determine now. There are, just draw your attention to some implications and clashes that the dates of this forum has that is in the report.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Councillors, interest in attending there? And I think it usually goes respectfully. I mean, we can nominate some people there, and if it's not, it doesn't work out. Well, it's well and good, but. Councillor Brimblecombe?
Yeah, Yes, I'm interested in attending. I thought I raised my little yellow hand, but it didn't come up, sorry. So, but yes,
All right.
I'm interested in attending.
Thanks, Charlie. Anyone else? Councillor Daniels.
I was just going to note that I usually attend, but this time, unfortunately, I won't be able to. But I look forward to an update from General Manager Mcdougall and Kirsten as well. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Councillor Daniels. All right, councillors. Well, Councillor Remmelcombe has indicated his interest in attending, so the recommendation will be there that we endorse him. So, someone happy to move that? Moved by Councillor Curtis, seconded Councillor Moriarty. So, councillors, that has been moved and seconded. All in favour? Against? Thank you, councillors. That's carried unanimously. All right, councillors. Now, information reports. The next part comes under General Manager John's area in terms of the Library Strategic Action Plan, 2021 to 2026. So our progress report that we're going to get now is the July to December 2021. John, I'll hand over to you, and I know that you have officers and certainly a presentation for us. So I'll let you take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good morning still. Today, proudly got the Library Strategic Action Plan 21-26 progress report for July to December 2021. I'll now like to hand over to Kira Nuss, our Coordinator for Libraries, to make the presentation. Thank you, Kira.
Thanks, John. Through the Chair, this presentation covers a 6-month period from July to December 21. The Strategic Action Plan was endorsed in June of 21. It was developed to ensure that we continue to build that strong foundation upon which our library team can evolve the programs, services, events and operations to provide the best value and quality to our community. We continue to focus on the 5 priority areas which you'd all be familiar with, which this presentation will be highlighting very specific highlights from. Our target for this 6-month reporting period was 50%. Towards the library staff learning and training, we achieved 62%. This was done by utilising online modules and in-house resources and support. Our library team has been charging forth towards ensuring all team members are on the same level for training and the ability to deliver our programs and services. All of our new recruits have been catching up very quickly, and we are back up to 80% of staff trained in the First 5 Forever program as well. As part of our plan, we have a performance measure to have team members participate in 2 external professional development opportunities each year. During this particular reporting period, our team was represented in a webinar on COVID-19 innovations within the public library industry. Our team joined staff from libraries across Australia, America and the UK. We all joined in sharing ideas and experiences during this time. However, the true highlight for this particular period was the launch of our LinkedIn Learning platform. Through a partnership with the State Library of Queensland and LinkedIn, our library service now offers free access to this globally recognised and respected training platform. Our team also reached out to Council's training and development team, allowing the entire organisation to benefit from the platform as well. And in fact, we've actually had a number of council staff reach out and join the library specifically to use this platform. Towards the library branding and marketing, we achieved 68%. This was done through 68 displays in all of our branches, promoting the collection resources to the community. We also engaged with the community through 6 issues of our new newsletter, and we engaged with our fellow council employees with 21 posts on the intranet, the Vine. Coming up, we look forward to the final 32%, where we'll be back out amongst the community with multiple community events and under 8s days. and conducting our library community survey. However, during this particular reporting period, the highlight for us would be the 113 Facebook posts on our page. Working with the public relations and events team and using the Meltwater platform, our team have focused on improving the management and engagement of our CHRC Libraries Facebook page. Keeping up with the times, we have created images and GIFs, which are graphic interchange formats, so essentially animated images that aligned with our brand to better engage with and market to the community. We also have been using Meltwater data to see what times our followers are on Facebook and really basic demographic information to ensure that we schedule specific content to be posted at specific times to capture our target audiences. For example, if we want to post about the crafternoon sessions, we're targeting parents and caregivers for primary school age children, and we can see that they're typically on Facebook around that 2:30 mark, maybe sitting in the car waiting to pick their kids up from school. So we know that we can schedule that kind of information at that time, and we've got a better shot of telling the community something that they're actually interested in or should know about. The community partnerships with the library, we've achieved 65%. This was done through a few highlights, 3 outreach sessions at Avalon, and during this time our partnership allowed us to actually forward plan, do some risk assessments and plan in advance COVID safe processes that has actually allowed us to continue the activities and home library service for the residents during lockdown. This was done with keeping in line with our public libraries restrictions, but also the Queensland Health and Blue Care restrictions. We make individual packages, all cleaned, all labelled, quarantined, and have a contactless delivery to a specific location outside the administration building at Avalon. It's actually resulted in not only the staff being so proud of their work, but really great feedback, such as I have a quote from an Avalon staff member saying the residents in the middle of lockdown no longer feel as though the world has forgotten about them, thanks to the library team. So that definitely makes you feel proud of working in our team. We also have 5 oral history recordings accessible online, and 59 resources digitised and accessible online. Here you can see a screenshot of the images section of our online catalogue montage. Anyone can access these digitised local history photographs anytime, anywhere, on any device. These particular images are donated photographs of Emerald during the 2010-11 floods. Towards the community events, programs and services, we achieved 45%. Although we were unable to achieve some specific performance measures, such as participating in the Nogoa November event, our team utilised the prepared activities, time and energy to keep up that momentum, pre-plan and overachieve in other areas. Highlights include the 13 Seniors Month events across the region, a total of 203 First 5 Forever sessions, both within and outside of our library facilities. A total of 192 sessions aimed at that primary school aged children, including establishing our interactive movies, kits and sessions in all 9 libraries. And a total of 99 sessions aimed at adults and seniors. In the pursuit of consistency across the region, we were able to launch vintage sessions within all libraries in November of 21, shortly followed by crafternoon sessions as well, both of which we fully intend to continue in the new year with COVID-safe virtual sessions and resources until we can meet together face-to-face. Our team has been very adaptive, continuing to deliver programs, services and events in a COVID-safe way. As you can see in the middle photograph, we were actually invited to take part in a local kindies Christmas breakup activity, where we actually prepped individual activity kits so that children could take part in a coloured shaving cream sensory activity, all done COVID safe, and it was a huge success. Towards the library facilities, we achieved 56%. This was done through establishing a children's area in the Dingo Library, and this was actually the last library branch to have a specific area for our children's programs established. And we finalised the wheeled shelving project within all libraries as well. Here you can see a photograph on the left of the children's area in Dingo, and on the right, wheeled shelving in the Blackwater branch as well. The wheeled shelving was a big project that's already allowed for great opportunities across the region, such as hosting the Planning for the Future workshop in Emerald Library, establishing the children's areas in the Dingo and Gemfields libraries, facilitating our new interactive movies in our Capella, Dingo, Gemfields and Thierry libraries, the smaller branches, and especially just layout changes and making more flexible multi-purpose spaces in all of our branches. With our overall target of 50%, the library service achieved 59%. As always, our library service would like to say a huge thank you to all those who helped us achieve our targets. So I'd like to say thank you to State Library of Queensland, LinkedIn, Aurora Information Technology, who provides our management platforms and supported us during the local history digitisation project, local playgroups, kindies and schools, the Blue Care team at Avalon, council colleagues, people and culture, connected communities, information, communication technology, customer service, public relations and events, health and safety, disaster management, assets and facilities, planning and environment, of course, our library team, including our enthusiastic new recruits and volunteers, our management, Suzanne and John, and of course, Mr. Mayor and the councillors for your continued support of our action plan goals to provide great quality libraries to serve our community. I would like to open it up to the floor for discussion.
Oh, thank you very much, Kira, and you always get a gold medal for enthusiasm, and that's just absolutely fantastic. Just before I do, I know councillors would certainly perhaps have some interest in some questions or comments, but is there anyone else? John, did you want to add anything to Kira's report, or Suzanne?
Oh, look, through the chair, Mr. Mayor, no, I think Kira's covered it adequately. Yeah, done a great job. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, John. Councillor Moriarty.
Thank you very much, Kira, and to Libraries team and communities team, Connected Communities team. Well done as always. And I just wanted to just make a couple of questions, but a couple of comments. That was one. I also wanted to acknowledge, I know you're doing a lot of wonderful things with the First Five Forever and early childhood type programs, but I also wanted to commend you on the home library service and the extra effort that you've been doing to connect with Avalon. Thank you very much. One question on page, or I don't know which, but it's number 3, Library Community Partnerships, which is page 363 of our agenda. You've got mentioned there that 2 CRG that you had community consultations with, and I was just wondering which CRGs and what kind of community consultation was that for?
Through the chair, yes, the first one was the CRG in Dingo, where I myself attended and got to catch up with the community, see what was going on, and also promote a lot of information on what programs we'd launched in Dingo and our click and collect service, and make some contacts with potential future projects as well. And the second was a community consultation
here in Emerald that our First Five Forever officer attended and actually gave a presentation to gauge the community's interest in a potential project that we might be taking on.
Thank you. And finally, did you mention First Bite, or did I? When you were on heading number 4, it was a big amount, and
I think that I was mentioning the First Five Forever program amongst that.
Sorry. Oh, right. Okay. Thank you. Because I was like thinking, I didn't think we were into that kind of area at libraries, but thank you so much. Congratulations again. Thank you for clarifying that. Thank you.
That's all right. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Moriarty. Well, councillors, I think I've seen somewhere in your reports, Kira, that notwithstanding certainly some of the interesting challenges we have as a community being able to get around and get to locations, but it clearly there's a bit of an enigma at libraries that people do love them for the general, the very, very valuable respite that just that location actually means to lots of people in our communities. It's sometimes some walls and a friendly face, and certainly books in a quiet place are very, very highly valued in our community. So you do an absolutely brilliant job at that. I know that right across the region, it's very much appreciated. Councillors, on that basis, we're going to receive that update from Kira. Is someone happy to move that? Moved by Councillor Moriarty, seconded Councillor Daniels. All in favour? Against? Thank you. Councillors, that's carried unanimously. Councillors, and thank you very much, Kira, and thank you, John. The next agenda item relates to corporate services under 14.2.1, which is the Record of Proceedings Information and Communication Technology Steering Committee. And this comes under General Manager Margaret Gatt and her team, and I'll let her introduce this report.
Thank you, Mayor, and good morning again, councillors. As the Mayor has indicated, this is a record of the minutes from the ICT Steering Committee meeting that was held in December. The Steering Committee exists to provide strategic oversight on the ICT portfolio to ensure that Council's investments are continually aligned to the corporate priorities of Council. I'll just hand over to our Manager ICT, Clinton, for us to take us through the details of the minutes. Thanks, Clinton.
Thank you, General Manager Gatt. Through the Chair, good morning, Mayor and Councillors and everyone else online. To summarise the key points from the ICT Steering Committee on the 1st of December, an agenda item relating to Technology One e-portals was deferred until next meeting. The committee endorsed a due date extension for the remote camps connectivity pilot. As well as
just a moment, Clinton, if you wouldn't mind, there's some background noise there somewhere on one of our
it's
people.
stopped. We don't know who it was.
Yeah, so just as a courtesy, people, everyone, just please keep everything on mute unless you're the reporter. I'm not sure where that came from, and I know that there's people working on different things behind the scenes here too. So sorry, Clint, sorry to interrupt, but continue, please.
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So just to repeat, so the committee endorsed a due date extension for both the remote camp connectivity pilot as well as the Skype to Teams upgrade project. Just regarding the remote camp connectivity pilot, initial feedback from the business has been extremely positive regarding those technology solutions providing connectivity out to 2 of our work camps, particularly around our auto aligning technology that's been deployed with the staff requiring very little assistance from the ICT team to actually set up and utilise that technology, which is fantastic. An options paper was put forward regarding the management of CCTV or closed circuit television, and this was endorsed by the committee supporting a centralised model for the management of CCTV, which will be supplemented by an outsourced support agreement. And the business owner for CCTV was confirmed as being the Manager of Information and Communication Technology moving forward, which is myself. A quarterly cybersecurity update was provided, which highlighted 4 deliverables being completed in the last quarter and 4 active items currently on track. Just to share with Council in relation to cybersecurity, in November, Council was fortunate enough to attend a workshop that was jointly put on by the Queensland Police and the Australian Cybersecurity Centre. It was the first run of its kind in central Queensland, and it provided Council with access to fellow local government authorities, as well as representatives from the education, police, health and defence industries. The workshop was an opportunity to share, I guess, current threats that are evolving in the cybersecurity space, as well as an opportunity for those in attendance, as well as some special guests such as JBS Foods, to provide, I guess, some war stories around what cyber breaches they may have had in their organisation, so that others could learn from that. Following on from that, Council is currently in the process of signing up to become a network partner with the Australian Cybersecurity Centre, which will provide us ready access to up-to-date information around cyber threats, as well as access to a range of technical expertise and resources as we continue to uplift our cybersecurity maturity. Just getting back onto the summary of what happened at the committee meeting. The project scope for the ECM, or Enterprise Content Management Transition Project, was endorsed, with the committee recommending a request for tender to be issued to procure a project manager to support this project moving into the detailed planning and delivery phases, with that procurement activity in process at the moment. A new NavMan trial was also endorsed to proceed, which will pilot an electronic pre-start solution in some of our yellow plant, and that pilot will be led by our Infrastructure and Utilities Department. An update was also received by the Manager of Safety and Wellness in relation to a market scan that was completed for a replacement contractor management system. The committee endorsed this project to proceed to the next phase of the procurement cycle and for a request for quote to be released to market. And lastly, the committee supported the meeting cycle for the ICT Steering Committee to move to a quarterly schedule following the first meeting in 2022. That's the end of the updates, and I'm happy to take any questions in regards to the information that's been shared today.
Thank you very much, Clinton. Look, and if you don't mind, just to, and I appreciate there's a lot in those decisions that the committee is making there. There's quite some significant changes and updates and potential savings to the business. I just wanted to go back to the 4th dot point in my report, Clinton, talking about closed circuit television. Unfortunately, I guess the necessity for some of that stuff is obviously increasing in the community, and there has been, I guess, the need for probably perhaps some community communication about that, about what that might mean at the appropriate time, I might add, because it's a sad indictment on our community, but unfortunately at times that need, I think, is certainly here, and I'd be very keen to know the extent of that, if you wouldn't mind sharing that with us.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the chair, so I guess some of the next steps that we're undertaking is developing an action plan to I guess resolve some of the current issues and challenges that we've got with CCTV infrastructure that's in place at the moment, as well as looking at, I guess, our approach to putting in new CCTV infrastructure, whether it's on council facilities and protecting assets, or from, I guess, a safe community perspective. So that will, I guess, involve a process for how we consult and engage with the community to let them know, I guess, about CCTV infrastructure that's in place already, as well as consult around, I guess, new infrastructure that's looking to be put in place. Because you're right, there is a growing need for that infrastructure to be expanded. And we're trying to do that in a structured approach that's manageable, and there's consistent infrastructure that we're putting in, which has been some of the challenges in the past.
Yeah, thanks very much, Clinton. Councillor Moriarty?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just, sorry, out of that conversation as well, just to add, it might be of benefit to link in with the planning and environment team as they're doing their project. I'm sorry, but I can't remember the name of the project, but basically it's around, in the operational plan, around working to improve community spaces to make them safer. So I just think that there could be some linkages there for CCTV and that project when you're considering that going forward, if that makes sense. Sorry, I'll find the project.
Yeah, through the chair, thank you, Councillor Moriarty. I'll definitely take that on board. And from, I guess, an internal perspective, there definitely is a cross collaboration across all business areas that, I guess, look after and have a stakeholdership within CCTV infrastructure. But I've made a note of that to make sure that I follow that through with John's area.
Yeah, I've just found it too. Sorry, Clinton. It's in the operational plan under livability strategy and action plan. Progressing planning scheme amendments related to urban design and crime prevention through environmental design and progression of sites, historical sites as well, in that crime prevention area. Thank you. Awesome.
You're on mute, Mr. Mayor.
My apologies. Thank you, Margaret. I thought I was going to get through today without that, but anyhow, Councillor Cypher.
Thank you. This is a very exciting project because the Capella CRG has a draft project, which we did up early last year about CTV in the Capella Township. And General Manager Gatt asked me to hold back on that until this project was complete and we could align them. So that's very exciting to see that this is really progressing. So when you're at a stage where you need to do some consultation, we would very much like to see you come up to Capella CRG and have a look at our plans and help us align it with what you're doing here, because this is really great. So thank you.
You're welcome, Councillor Cypher. We'll ensure we do that.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Cypher. I mean, as I talked about before, a little bit of communication. That clearly and I'm sure Cara and her team would be listening in to sort of finding a really good opportunity of maybe sharing some information about it. So it'll be great to do it up in your area up there. So, Councillor Brimblecombe.
Just a couple of questions. One was the ownership of that data, as in any video, that who owns that if it's going to a contractor. And the second question is also relating back to I noticed on Navman, but the cams in vehicles and machinery, is that possible in the future? Thank you.
Through the chair, so in relation to ownership of footage, that will still be maintained by council. So we'll own all of that infrastructure and data, and any, I guess, request to access that will go through the formal RTI request process. The external, I guess, support arrangement will just be assisting with, I guess, monitoring for if there's faults with cameras and helping with rectifying any issues or faults or supporting with training. But in terms of the actual ownership of that data, that's fully with council. And can you just repeat your question in regards to the mobile cameras? Sorry, I just missed that part.
Just with, is it possible to, within this policy or this, not policy, but for cams, within vehicles or machinery to be included within this as well?
We'll definitely review that. So we're in the early stages of finalising, I guess, what that action plan looks like, but I'll make a note to consider that and work in conjunction with the infrastructure and utilities section to see if that's a possibility.
Thanks, Clinton. Marnie, you have a question?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I just want to check if Councillor Burns he seems to be going in and out of the meeting. I'm thinking he's having some issues at the moment. If he can hear me, if he can confirm, please.
All right.
I can't see his camera either. Councillor Burns, can you hear us? You're on mute. I might need to get an IT person to give him a call directly, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Thank you. Councillors, on that basis, would you like to just pause while we do that for a few minutes? Because I don't want to continue this conversation or indeed consider the recommendation and just until I know exactly what Councillor Burns' situation is. So, councillors, we'll just, I'm not sure what the right word is to adjourn or pause, but we'll pause until Councillor Burns' participation is clarified. So if you'll just excuse the meeting for the moment, just a second. still in the meeting. Joe?
There's Wi-Fi going in.
You're on live stream now.
Okay, so the meeting resumes again at 12:16, and welcome back, Councillor Burns, just with a slight technology problem there. Councillors, look, we've just, we're talking about, or certainly Clinton had finished answering some questions in relation to ICT. Now, Councillor Burns, I think you're the councillor member of that committee, is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I was at the meeting. It was good.
All right, thanks, Councillor Burns. So, is there any other questions for Clinton? I'm assuming Clinton's still online.
Yes, I'm still here, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Clinton. All right, councillors, well, if there is no further questions, the recommendation is there that we'll receive the record of proceedings of that Information and Communications Technology, or ICT Steering Committee, as we know it, held on the 1st of December 2021. Is someone happy to move that? Moved by Councillor Burns, seconded Councillor Moriarty. So, councillors, that's been moved and seconded. All in favour? Against? Marnie, just for clarification, I can't see Councillor Carpenter on my screen.
Mr. Mayor, I can see Councillor Carpenter and everybody voted for that motion, 9-0.
Very good, thank you. All right, thank you, councillors. As I said, there's only a couple of agenda items left. We stay with General Manager Margaret Gatt in relation to the audit management letter, which is item 14.2.2, which comes from the Queensland Audit Office. So, Margaret, if you could lead us through this, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillors, on the 15th of November last year, we received the letter from the Auditor General, Mr. Brendan Worrell, advising that we'd received an unmodified and unqualified audit opinion on our financial statements. And as is customary practice, we have the QAO come into our organisation or come into local governments twice a year. They issue an interim report with findings, and then they also issue, alongside of this letter that was issued on the 15th of November, a final closing report. I'll hand over to Vicky Coleman, our Manager of Finance, to just take us through some of the highlights of the final report. Thanks, Vicky.
Thank you, General Manager Gatt, and good afternoon, councillors. Through the Chair, I present the Queensland Audit Office's management letter and associated reports in relation to Council's external audit of its financial statements for the period ending 30 June 2021. Council's financial statements are subject to various requirements under the local government regulation, which include being prepared in compliance with Australian accounting standards, statement of accounting concepts, interpretations, and the framework for the preparation and presentation of financial statements. The financial statements must be certified by Council's Audit Committee and then provided to the Auditor General for audit. Upon completion of the audit, the Auditor General's report must be issued no later than 4 months after the end of the financial year. The financial statements must then be included in Council's annual report, which must be adopted within 1 month after the Auditor General has issued their report. Council has complied with all requirements of the local government regulations in regards to its statutory reporting obligations for the period ending 30 June 2021. As part of the audit process, the Auditor General issues interim and closing reports and the management letter, which includes an audit opinion. The report tabled today contains extracts from the Auditor General's interim and closing reports, which have also been tabled for completeness and full disclosure for the public record. The audit included 4 areas of focus. These were the accuracy of data used in the calculation of property and ratings revenue, the valuation of infrastructure assets, the appropriateness of procurement policies, and the completeness of the provision for landfill restoration. Based on the information provided by Council through the audit processes, sufficient evidence was obtained to conclude the balances recorded in Council's financial statements were not materially misstated. During the audit, amendments were made to the endorsed financial statements of approximately 58 million, relating to found assets of approximately 35 million, changes to valuation inputs of approximately 5 million, and the derecognition of assets of approximately 17 million. This was due to the timing of finalising asset valuation information, as the found assets required a high level of substantiation prior to being reflected in the financial statements. A review of internal controls in the report noted 3 deficiencies relating to 2 items for procurement processes, which are being addressed through the Strategic Procurement Project, and the data integrity issues with rates and property, which is being addressed through the Rates Data Integrity Project. The audit also noted 3 resolved reporting matters relating to the identification of a large number of assets not previously recorded on Council's asset register. These dated back to pre-amalgamation. They also included 2 key impact matters relating to Council's financial statement, which was the inclusion of financial statements for the Central Highlands Housing Company and the Central Highlands Development Corporation in this year's financial reporting. This is based on an annual assessment of Council's control and influence over the entities and is in line with accounting standards. Additionally, there was a change to accounting standards that requires all reporting entities to reclassify costs associated with cloud-based software assets, which under recent interpretation no longer meet the criteria for an intangible asset to be recorded on the balance sheet. Council will apply this treatment in the 21-22 reporting period, which will result in a prior year adjustment for approximately $6 million. This is in line with the approach recommended by the department and taken by other councils. The Auditor General issued an unmodified audit opinion in relation to the financial statements for the period ending 30 June 2021 and ranked Council's financial statement maturity as integrated and its financial sustainability risk as low. Happy to take any questions on the information provided today.
Thank you very much, Vicky and Margaret, for that. CEO Sharon.
Yes, thanks, Mayor. Can I just ask that Marnie record in the minutes that the full reports from which the extracts were taken that are included in the council report have been that were referred to as being tabled have been uploaded on the Councillor Hub and will be attached to the minutes for public availability.
Thank you, Sharon. Questions, councillors? Councillor Moriarty.
Sorry, just a comment, Mr. Mayor. Obviously, this information has come through to the Council's Audit Committee as well. Thank you.
Sorry, Councillor Moriarty, you're way too fast for me there. I was preparing for a longer comment. Councillors, there's a lot of information in this, and I guess it'd be fair to say, without obviously wanting to start a long conversation, the process, certainly audit process, has been a little bit disrupted. Certainly for us over the last couple of years, we have had some significant changes, and these are all, in my view, changes that are certainly giving us a more comprehensive, I suppose you'd say, assessment of our business. You know, the related entities and those sorts of things. That they're all changes, and certainly you can see, and certainly some of the ratios. You know, we have been very proactive and very keen to make sure that you know, we do some things there that are not just I guess you'd say creative. They're actually designed at probably providing a better and more competent assessment of our business and the things we do, so as to make obviously our management of that a lot more accurate. So there's lots of things more changing in this, but I just want to thank certainly Margaret and Vicky for their diligence around this, because to be quite frank with you, it's quite a challenging topic, because as much as you would assume that audit is a fairly stale, dry and predictable thing, the reality is we are going through some change, and certainly the scrutiny on financial viability of local government is becoming increasingly sort of scrutinised, not because of the performance of necessarily the financial management capability of councils, but the traditional ways and some of the more interesting ways that we're now forced to actually provide services and try and keep people gainfully employed and our services commensurate with our ability to rate. And I suspect there'll be more changes to come. So I do commend our team, because some of these things certainly only occupy a few pages on our agenda, but they certainly occupy quite a few days and nights for those people that are managing these and making our organisation way more, I suppose you'd say, skillful in the way they do this. So I really do want to commend Margaret and Vicky for this. Councillor Rolfe?
Mayor, just to raise, if these items are going to be to the public, can I just on page 389, the letter from Cameron Henry, under audit fee, in the second sentence, this fee is in line with, and he doesn't finish the sentence. So just to make that, it's not our doing, it's Mr. Henry's doing. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Councillor Rolfe. General Manager Margaret?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to round out some of your comments to the other councillors as well around the ratios and increased scrutiny. Councillors may remember that under the acting CEO, Mr. Parker, that the department sought feedback from local government on changes to local government financial sustainability framework, and we provided a very comprehensive feedback on that. And as such, it's highly likely that we will be adding 2 more additional ratios to our financial reporting in the coming years. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you very much, Margaret. Councillors, any other questions? Well, look, the recommendation is there that the Central Highlands Regional Council receive the Auditor General's observation reports about the audit of the financial statements for year ended 30 June 2021. Is someone happy to move that? Moved by Councillor Rolfe, seconded Councillor Carpenter. It's been moved and seconded. Councillors, all in favour? Against? Thank you, councillors. Marnie, was everyone's vote in view there?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Carried 9-0.
Carried. Thank you. Right, councillors, back to General Manager Michelle, and this is in relation to, under her customer and commercial services portfolio, the quarterly customer service update. And I know Michelle will introduce this, and her team will report on this work. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillors, there are a quarterly report before you to update you on customer service activities for the period 1st of October through to the 31st of December 2021. And I'd like to hand over to the Manager of Customer Service, Rebecca Brosnan, please.
Good morning, councillors. Thank you, General Manager Webster. This report before you today provides the statistics and highlights for Q2 of this financial year, for the 1st of October till the 31st of December, last year, 2021. Thank you, Marnie. The first slide. As you can see here, an overview of the customer requests received for the period. We received 5,026 with a completion rate within target of 88%. Next slide, please, Marnie. This is a volume by department, with corporate services having a total of 2,072, followed closely by communities with just over 1,200, customer and commercial services who received 250, and infrastructure and utilities who received 1,493. Next slide, please, Marnie. This is the top 5 requests by the volume. Rates and valuation were the highest, with just over 2,000 CRMs. Water, not 2,000 CRMs, it was 2,000 calls, I beg your pardon. Water, 97% completed within target. Animals are 91% completed within target. roads sitting at 53% and development and planning at 98%. There is a statistic there for the waste and customer service teams of 99% completed within target for the just under 200 requests they received relating to waste. Thanks, Marnie. This is our additional contact points for customer service. We had 231 calls for the period, with 82% considered urgent and referred to council staff for action. We received 8 requests through our online services customer request portal. We processed just shy of 10,000 emails for the quarter and received 94 SnapSend solves. With regard to the contact centre, the staff received just over 6,000 calls for the quarter, with, as Michelle indicated earlier today in the operational report update, 91% were resolved at first point of contact. We have highlighted the results for rates and water for the contact centre. So rates and water received just over 2,300 calls. Of those, 2,260 were resolved. So that total calls represents just under 40% of all the calls received for the quarter, being for rates and water. And it's highlighted on the slide there. We had a very, very busy lead up to Christmas, with rates issued and due and reminder notices, water notices issued and due, and a round of supplementary notices going out as well. So a fantastic statistic there for both the rates team and customer service teams. Our SNAP sessions this quarter were focused on key messages in relation to business continuity plans and risk controls around COVID-19. And so the sessions we had were focused on impacts to customer service and managing those risks in our environment. We were successful in publishing our 68 procedures that we have related to customer service to the new eLearn platform, being Dampstra. And also this particular customer service eLearn has been published for all staff and will form part of Council's corporate induction package for new starters, which is a great success for the team. And finally, to finish off the quarter, at the end of last year, just before Christmas, the second round of recipients for the Customer Service Excellence Award was the A team, as they're affectionately referred to in waste, which was Des Walsh, Moses, I can't pronounce his surname, and Peter Campagnolo. We had lost track of the number of customers that were calling us in relation to the service that they'd received at the Emerald Transfer Station from these individuals, and in liaising with their supervisor and manager, that those sentiments are echoed with the contractors that they are engaging with on a daily basis, and so they're worthy recipients of this award. So there was a morning tea held in recognition of their efforts and their unwavering commitment to service, and the photo they're taken at that morning tea. And that concludes the quarterly update for all customer service, and I will hand over if there are any questions.
Thank you very much, Beck. Councillors, over to you. Councillor Moriarty.
Thank you very much. Yeah, just wanted to say well done again to the customer service team and everybody associated with making this all the achievements and successes of this report possible. So congratulations, well done, moving in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Moriarty. There's just one thing I wanted to ask, Beck, and maybe it might have been a really simple one. Every now and again, we just get a little. Sometimes it comes through to me, and sometimes to other councillors, about someone saying that they called up council and didn't get a call back for 2 or 3 days or something. How do we make? I guess you probably told us a million times. Maybe I wasn't listening, but I mean, how do we make sure that a referred call, is rounded out? How's that practically closed off? Some guy rings up and says, I want to talk to, whatever in infrastructure, and that person that just goes through. How do we know that's not rounded out, or how do we know that it is?
Through the Mayor, it's a great question. Thank you. If a customer calls through our 1300 number and asks to speak with a council officer, it depends on the department as to what action we're taking, but it always originates with a CRM being logged for that department. So there's very few calls that will go directly through to officers. They will go through via a CRM and they'll be triaged and a contact will be made. If a customer contacts customer service to talk to the Mayor, the CEO or councillors, they're referred to the relevant executive assistant. They don't go through the CRM process. It's just the information is emailed. So I'm happy to look into our process around handing over those messages to councillors and the Mayor and CEO, but all other officers, those requests are logged as a CRM, as a general inquiry mostly. For that area to give them a call back. And then we're tracking those through the normal CRM process.
Yeah, thanks, Beck, because I'm not saying this is a huge thing. I'm just saying we just get those couple of, and you know, unqualified sometimes references to, you know, that not callback, not from, you know, I guess for a small inquiry, it's generally something else, and there's someone hasn't called back, or, you know, a couple of days have gone by, and there might be reasons for all that sort of stuff. It was just more the process of how that is looped out, I guess you'd say. All right, thank you for that. Other questions, councillors? All good. All right, thank you, Beck. Thank you, Michelle. That recommendation there is that we receive that quarterly customer service update. Is someone happy to move that? Moved by Councillor Burns, seconded Councillor Brimblecombe. So, councillors, that resolution has been moved and seconded. All in favour? Against? Thank you, councillors. That's carried 9-0. All right. Thank you. Councillors, that brings us to general business. If there's some issues you want to raise, now's the time. Councillor Rolfe.
Thank you, Mayor. I've received a note from the retired councillor Dale Nixon that the Ivy Anderson St Valentine's dinner is being held 12th of February, 6 p.m. at the Springshore Golf Club. Live music, $50 a head, and her comment was, "We wish to use this forum to extend our thanks to all who helped us obtain the funding, the federal funding that they received for the building of the Ivy Anderson home." So everybody's invited. Thanks, Mayor.
Yep. Thank you, Councillor Rolfe. And please, if those thinking of attending, it is St Valentine's Day, so there's a very good reason where you might spend a lovely evening outside in Springshore. It's probably one of the nicest places to be. So thank you. Councillor Moriarty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to raise again, because it just keeps being brought up, I think, every time I go to the airport, that shade over the walkways at the airport and shade over the seating area, it just continues to be raised to me. So I'm just flagging it because it keeps coming up, and I don't know if this is the appropriate forum or what, but anyway, just bringing it up. Shade over walkways at the airport and the seating areas for the drop-down pickup areas. Community would like to see, or the people I've spoken to would like to see more in that happening there. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Moriarty. I thought I had another one there. No other question? Business? All right, councillors. Well, thank you very much, councillors, ELT. It makes it sound like a chore, but it's not. Certainly a challenge today to conduct this meeting virtually. I do want to thank certainly the IT team here at Council. They've been diligently working through, I guess, making sure that the technology that we use quite regularly, though, is going to be tested in this format, and they've obviously delivered to councillors and others in locations, and certainly working from home, supporting our approach and management of certainly our business continuity plan. I think, without putting words or taking words out of the CEO's mouth, it's working well. We are getting regularly 20 to 30 positive COVID infections in the Central Highlands local government area on a daily basis. So I guess the application and management is something that is still critically important. You would have known, and most of you will have seen and probably been told about certain businesses that have obviously found it very difficult to keep operating when staff members and the bulk of staff have been infected by the virus. I can appreciate the severity or lack of severity of it is not the point. The point is it obviously it actually creates, I guess you'd say, that non-continuity or provision of service, and that's something we are absolutely critically sort of committed to not having in our organisation, where we get very little, I guess you'd say, sentiment when it comes to not delivering. So thank you everyone for doing this. Obviously, as it has been for the last almost 2 years, things do change regularly, and I know that our teams here are constantly monitoring those circumstances and certainly directions. But obviously, first and foremost and uppermost in their mind is the safety, certainly of community and council, and making sure that we deliver those services. And that's a message we need to keep making. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for participation today. I know that there's an invite that the CEO has extended to us a little later. So councillors, if you could bear with us and be available for that, please, for a little bit of a discussion. But thank you very much to Marnie as well for the coordination of certainly some extra stuff today. Appreciate it very much. And at the time of 12:43, I'll declare our first virtual meeting closed. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.